Yan. Hello, hello, Mike Tess. Simulan na natin ang new expansion. Excited na ako. Saan na yun? Yan. So, ang magiging main natin ulit is, syempre, Demon Hunter. Check natin yung sound kung okay. Sige. Tignan natin. Okay na ba? Set to go. Sana hindi hindi mag-crash. Wag naman sana. Simulan na natin ta. Okay. Nice one. Ba't nasa Shadowlands to? Alam ko nasa ano to Nasa Stormwind dapat to Naka-prepare na to eh. Ayan na. New in Dragonflight. Profession update, new features including crafting orders, equipment customization, and more. Soar through the Dragon Isles skies with a trading new movement system. Oh. Meet me at the Storming Docks. It's time to set sail for the Dragon Isles. Ano yung
Supplies are stocked and our expedition's ready to go. Gather your griffin and meet me in Stormwind. It's time to set sail for the Dragon Isles!
Yeah, excited din siya, Let's gather. Okay. Meet me at the Stormwind. Wait. Kunin ko muna to. Sayang to Gamit pa natin okay na yun. Iwan na natin. Kano ba ako? Single target. Gold content tayo. Para survivability. Okay. Saan tayo bunta? Tatapos na pa ito. Hindi ko na natapos. Okay na yun. Stormwind. Napindot ko pala. Nice one! Wow, egg! Okay. Saan tayo punta? Stormwind, no? Kailangan natin bumaba. Sakto, dito na tayo. So... yeah. Let's go, let's go! Huwag sana mag-crash! Sana tuloy-tuloy ang questing. Okay. Makapalitan yung itsura natin. Maglalabo-labo na yan. Dahil mapapalitan natin equipment. Makuha mo natang item level hanggang 3 plus ata. So where am I? Ang dami pa rin tao, ang dami pa rin nagka-quest kahit nagpaka-late na ako. Yeah, sure, ready. Let's go. On the way. Great news, Kitty. That's the spearhead of our expansion had made landfall in the Dragon Isles. Nice. Thanks to the efforts of of yourself and other Dragon Scale expedition member. We've established protected landing site, made contact with the Dragonflight embassy. Are you prepared to accompany us on our next voyage to the Dragon Isles? Of
Yeah,
course.
the next expedition boat shouldn't be long now. Make a friend or two while you wait for it.
Okay. Ano to? Unknown. Ano to? Unknown arrival? What? Ito, wait for the Dragon Scale. That's ducks. Oh, okay. Ayun. Yun ba yun? So, waiting din to mga to. Okay, let's wait. Ano to?
We are united in
Are you looking
purpose.
for trouble to Dragon Isles? The Dragon can get you there in no
Be
time.
bold. Be
Yeah.
true. We have slept long enough.
Okay, so waiting tayo, waiting. Ano ba itong mga to? Ting puti ah. Ang linis eh, no? Malang babae to. Babae ba pangalan? Ebe? Umarang. Ano, wala pa rin. Bro, stuck in traffic. Yeah. 5-star would not recommend. Ang bagal ng ship na... Uy, sa bagal ng ship natin. Wait. Ang tagal. Ano yun? Bakit parang may... dalawa. Ano tong isa? Bakit dalawa? Pero nung unang wala naman yan eh, no? Nung una sa ano to ah? Sa... Dito sa Kulteras yung ano niya. Yung drop niya. Tagal ah. It's taking too long. It's taking too long. Sigh. Sigh? Ang kulit nun na. Okay, let's go. Sana hindi crash. Tugulo. Nood muna tayo. Ano papanoorin natin? Yung bagong release. Sige, mamaya na yun. Prepare na lang natin. Prepare. Ang ating papanoorin. World of Warcraft. Ang dami. www. What? Hindi ano? Bakit hindi ano to? Okay. Ito. Ang tagal naman. Saan na yun? Ito. Top 7 tips for returning players in Dragonflight. Taliesin. Okay. Soundtrack. 14 minutes. Matagal-tagal din pala. Pero, ang tagal-tagal din tayo naghihintay. Ano na lang ating gagawin? Ay! Mabenta ko ba to? Hindi, meron pa naman ako na ito eh. Hindi, marami pa yan. Sige. Is it still bug? What? Why? Bug? Possibly.
Well, look what the
Looks
wind
like
blew
it.
in. Adventure
Ngayon,
calls,
excited
and
pa
we
naman
will
ako.
answer.
Tapos hindi... Wala. Ano to? Bakit may ano? Ah, yung free. Malamang. What? I'm waiting for the boat. Where's the boat? Ano na? Oh. Nagkaroon ng buwan dun? Meron ba talaga dun? What's happening? What's happening? Wala. Ipanoorin niya muna natin to. Check ko na lang. Okay, panoorin muna natin to. Oh, oops. Reaction. Oh, wait. Capture, reaction. World of Warcraft. Ito pala. World of Warcraft. Ayan. Ayaw mo na yung image. Ayun. So, dapat ito game. Slide. Window capture. Ang window capture ko dapat is Google. Yan. Wala pa rin. Sige, note muna tayo. Okay, panoorin muna natin itong 7 tips guide. Mula kanino to? Sa mag-asawa. So, let's start. Check na lang natin tong Warcraft kung mag-aano. Okay ba? Okay, simulan na natin to. Let's check the video.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking World of
What?
Warcraft Dragonflight, and we are talking you returning to WoW to play Dragon.
Ulitin natin. Masyadong ano. Wala pa rin. What? Okay, altab na lang ako. Okay, panoorin muna natin to.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and today we are talking
makikita ko pala dun eh.
Warcraft Dragonflight, and we are talking you returning to WoW to play Dragonflight, and everything you need to know to make that happen. Because look, I don't want to make a big deal out of it or anything, okay? But we all noticed you haven't logged in for a while, and that's fair enough, you know, life happens. Apparently, for other people, I hear that's definitely a thing. But I know you, Internet. I know you've seen those glorious Dragon Isle zones, and Tuskar, and shiny new UI, and talent trees, and Tuskar with little hats, and majestic dragon-filled skies, and proper old-school fantasy vibes, and Tuskar but with like glasses on, and in-depth new profession and crafting systems, and Tuskar making a tasty soup. And I know that little WoW tingle has been flaring up again. And Internet, I understand, because there is a ton of exciting new features in Dragonflight, both long-awaited and unexpected, and we are going to tell you all about them today, so that when you take your first steps, or flaps, I guess, into the new game, you can pretend that you knew about them all along, and that's okay. We will keep your secrets. No one need ever know. So join us for our 7 top tips for returning players in World of Warcraft Dragonflight. Okay, go, 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 go. Okay, first things first, let's get your character sorted and ready to go by looking at some of the core new features of Dragonflight. And of course, the return of an old friend, talent trees, allowing you to customize your abilities and talents more than ever before for every situation imaginable, anytime you want. And that's all well and good. I don't think I need to sell you on how fun talent trees are, but the thing I really like about these is how easy they are to use. Individual builds can be saved, named, and imported or exported, meaning that you can drop that DPS Holy Priest build, or pure auto-attack Fury Warrior build, or, and I kid you not, the no Moonkin form Balance Druid build right there in your guild Discord, and they can see that you were right all along. It can be done, and I did it. Who's laughing now, eh? Also, does anyone know of any guild currently recruiting? Because I'm suddenly available. There has also been a massive UI customization overhaul, giving you complete control over how your WoW gaming experience looks, with nearly every element of the shiny new interface adjustable to your tastes, no matter how bad your taste is. And if you think all that looks a bit hard to navigate, well, don't forget the search function, which seriously, like, yes, thank you. Also savable and shareable as individual character profiles or across your entire account. I'm also a big fan of some of the new accessibility options, like the new interact key, which when enabled allows you to automatically interact with objects and NPCs just by facing them and using a designated key press instead of mouse buttons.
I'm using that.
Targeting, which automatically selects enemies as you approach them, and press and hold casting, so that you can spam said enemy with all the smites you've got without ever having to take your finger off the smite button. All things considered, you might find that WoW is just a whole lot easier to play than you remember it. And so now you've created your new evoker and got it all set up, let's play some WoW. Oh wait, you did create your new Drakthir evoker, didn't you? Okay, fine, off you go. There's only like 15 centillion customization options. You get on with that, and in the meantime, we'll talk about...
Dragonflight tips.
Oh yeah, let's play some WoW. And we're at the good stuff now, fam. Launch day. Dragonflight brings us a whole new continent to explore, the Dragon Isles. Make sure you click on the crow's nest option that appears on the boat ride over for a proper good cinematic eyeful as you arrive. And in my opinion, this new continent is an absolute banger. After a couple of years hopping around different planes of existence in Shadowlands, the Dragon Isles feels like a return, not just to Azeroth, but to the kind of classical fantasy aesthetic and feels that will envelop many a returning player like a big warm snuggly blanket. But you know, a spiky blanket with massive shoulder pads, because it is still WoW after all. And my top tip here is don't forget to explore, because it's easy to look at the huge zones which you can zoom about via the new dragon riding feature, more on that later, and assume that you won't need to go searching in every little nook and cranny of the Isles like you might in past expansions, where you had to spend the first patch or two on foot. But that is not the case at all. And Blizz tries to make that obvious to the player, I think, in the whole vibe of the expansion, which is like, yeah, this is an expedition of discovery. Your main buddies are the Explorers League and the Relinquery, and the whole world is just so beautifully realized and detailed and alive feeling that what I found on beta is that far from making me skip stuff, the ease and entertainment that dragon riding brings to travel in Dragonflight actually really encouraged me to look around and explore much more than I have done in previous expansions. I think many of you will understand what I'm trying to say if I tell you that the vibes and design philosophy of these zones reminds me a lot of Grizzly Hills, in that there's this sense of place where people live and go about their business that you can just be witness to.
Bring my food.
Design and skyboxes and just spaces to exist in. I don't want to be a dweeb here, okay, but it really is bringing the world back into World of Warcraft. So my advice is that whatever you are doing in the Isles, be open to changing course. If you see an interesting looking cave, check it out. If you notice a couple of NPCs walking along the road chatting, go and listen in. If you're doing an outrageously enjoyable dragon race or time trial and the course takes you through an area you're not familiar with, go back and check it out after you've completely mercilessly destroyed your fellow racers with your Chad dragon riding skills and left them eating your dust. Your air. I guess they'll be eating your air, but yeah, because in my experience on beta, Dragonflight really seems to reward players who take a moment to look around and take it in. From little hidden quests and character moments and environmental storytelling dotted around, it's felt like coming home for me, and I haven't even been anywhere. There
Encounter.
are 8 new dungeons
Dungeon,
going live with the
syempre.
launch of Dragonflight, as we've come to expect, which thematically tend to tie up storylines which we start and play through in the leveling campaign. From a game structure point of view, these are a really good way of getting your characters geared up to a certain level early on, and of course the real fun comes when they open up as Mythic Plus dungeons in Season 1. But I wanted to take this section just to highlight a couple of my favourite little moments, like the Magical Academy Algathar, where players get to take part in a giant game of Lish Laroth, or Talon Toss. Ooh, a ball-throwing game in a magical academy? That's an incredible idea. Guys, I think that's got some real potential. Or my personal favourite, the Knockhood Offensive, which is an instanced version of the entire Onaran Plains zone, and where you and your dungeon team get from boss to boss via your dragon-riding drakes. This dungeon is considerably easier to traverse with a fully leveled up drake, more on that later. And if you really don't fancy it even then, don't forget you can use the new ride-along feature to turn into a little whelp and auto-follow a party member who is comfortable taking the reins. And you can just focus on all the boss-killing good stuff. But I love this dungeon. It feels great to be swooping around freely with your homies, and I hope they take this further and have full-on free-form dragon-riding boss fights in future dungeons and raids.
Wow. Dungeon? Nagkaano ka?
In many ways, Dragonflight feels like a return to the core principles of WoW, and that could also be said for the end game, which feels like a wiping of the slate after what we're going to call the AP era of WoW. So a lot of things that we've started to consider progression staples in recent times are gone, like mission tables. What mission tables? An infinite currency grind connected to your core player that you have to make sure to keep up with week to week throughout the expansion forever? Nope, completely gone. And that's a big deal, because when there is no AP grind and your character's power basically just comes from the gear that they collect from dungeons and raids, and don't forget, fully functional tier sets are back from the very first raid in Dragonflight, and crafting and PvP and the world, that means there's room at endgame for a much more optional journey. And Dragonflight fills that gap with the renowned paths of the 4 main factions of the Isles, and a couple of other smaller scale reps on the side for good measure. Renown is basically a remodeling of faction reputation, but with lots more rewards at much more frequent intervals. And because there's no AP equivalent, all those rewards are cosmetic or just unconnected to player power. So in the Waking Shores, you unlock exploring transmogs and rock climbing mini-games and drake customizations and new quest lines and portals around the Isles and toys and pets and titles and stuff like that. Tuskar in the Azure Span have backpack transmogs to unlock, new fishing holes and mini-games to access across the continent, as well as their own extra quests and recipes and pets. You get the idea. Cool stuff to have and fun to collect, but nothing that any player needs to stay up to date with raiding or whatever. And the fact that you are constantly popping new ranks and rewards from the 4 factions is actually a surprisingly good motivator and makes world and side quests feel really worthwhile. There's also the Black Dragon reputation, where you choose who you want to back as new leader of the flight between Twink Rathian and Daddy Sibelian for even more cool cosmetics, including the Black Dragon scale customization for your Drake, which actually that is kind of mandatory really now I think about it. Like, who doesn't want the Black Dragon scale unlock? And another major form of endgame progression is of course the new professions system, which I'm not going to get into tons of detail about now, but with so many different areas to specialize in, and the new work order system where you basically pick up other player commissions to fill and improve your skills, it's another optional but incredibly rewarding and potentially very lucrative way to spend your endgame days. There's even a unique transmog set available for open world PvP kills in war mode if you like. Dragonflight is very much the optional grind expansion in this first patch, and that's a big philosophy change that might take a while for some players to get used to, but I think it's a good one, done really well, and I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of fun with it.
Okay. Explore. Improvement.
If you haven't played WoW for a moment, there are some big quality of life improvements that might be new to you. Like, you know, you can group with players on the opposing faction now, right? Horde and Alliance, running dungeons and raids together, if the group leader has enabled it. Mass hysteria. There's also the Inspiration Catalyst, which allows players to turn standard, non-tier items of raid gear, dungeon gear, PvP gear, and certain open world gear into tier set pieces, meaning that players can work towards unlocking their tier set and bonuses no matter what content they prefer, and which I can't lie, works as quite nice bad luck protection for raiders like me too. But the big feature that will be new to everyone, and which we've touched on already today, is dragon riding, the new momentum-based flying mechanic which will be your main way of traversing the Dragon Isles. Dragon riding takes a minute to master and has a talent tree that needs to be unlocked by collecting dragon riding glyphs from all around the map to reach its true potential. But all glyphs are there, waiting to be picked up at the very start of the expansion, meaning that you can go and collect them all the moment you pick up your first Drake, just a few minutes into the opening questing. It's almost 3 times faster than normal WoW flying, it's like 1,000,000 times more fun in my opinion, and enhances every other aspect of the game with its mere presence. Drakes are customizable to an absurd degree, with some complete transformations that drop from certain bosses and achievements, and which will undoubtedly continue throughout the expansion. But the best thing of all your dragon riding progress, from your Drakes to their customization unlocks to the glyphs you've collected to upgrade them, are completely account-wide. Because Dragonflight is also objectively the most alt-friendly expansion in World of Warcraft history. So those renown rewards that we saw in the last section, all of them, apart from like supply crates, are account-wide unlocks. So all that transmog, but also mini-game unlocks and fishing hole unlocks and everything else, it's all account-wide. And I've got to tell you, it feels pretty good to step off the boat on an alt, and before you've even picked up a quest, mounting up onto a fully leveled dragon riding Drake and zooming all over the map, doing world quests and picking up treasures that you've unlocked on your main. Top stuff. And you know, at last.
Jump to season 1? Okay. Anong meron sa season 1?
Into the expansion, as usual, comes season 1 with the opening of the Vault of Incarnates raid, but a new structure to a lot else, like the 8 dungeon Mythic Plus pool featuring 4 Dragonflight dungeons and 4 dungeons from returning expansions, meaning that season 2 will have a complete 100% different dungeon and loot table lineup to its predecessor. A really good change in my opinion that I'm looking forward to seeing play out. Different dungeons every Mythic Plus season is awesome. For PvPers, there's new solo queue arena, including ranked mode, which, look, you asked for it, fam, okay? Don't blame me, this is something you said you all wanted. And even the raid is the first in modern WoW to release all difficulty modes at the same time, something that will definitely have an interesting impact on the race to world first. But much more important than that, the race to world first for guilds with a name a bit like Immortalis, the true race that all the cool kids love, started by my guild called, and this might not be a massive surprise to you, Immortalis, specifically to create a competition that we might actually win, but which we don't often win. Curse you other Immortalises, and especially you a bit like Immortalis, you guys suck. Oh yeah, one last thing. If you are returning to the game for Dragonflight, then that's great. I think you're going to really enjoy it. But don't forget the return tax. A new rule that Blizzard invented very recently, where no loot will drop for you if you don't send 10,000 gold weekly to Mavam on Argent Dawn EU. That's MYFF.
Okay, that's enough. There's no return tax, don't worry. Thanks for joining us for the video today, and if you are returning Dragonflight, I hope it was useful and that we see you soon. I'll be in the Azure span hanging out with the Tuskar.
Sige, wala. Kukunin ko naman yung pagkailangan ko.
Me, Evitel, and Taliesin. Until next time, cheerio.
Okay. Wala pa rin ang barko. Why is it like that? Nanonood ulit tayo. So yeah, let's see. Wala talaga eh, no? You should all raid the horde base and take the boatload. Thought has crossed my mind. Unknown arrival time. Unknown arrival time? What unknown arrival time? Grabe naman, ang tagal naman. Wait, so kailangan nating load pa tayo ng iba. Wait lang. Hanap tayo. Best ever. Lunch gearing. 5 hours. Ito, panahon natin yung kay Bellular. Kaso wala pa rin. Panahon natin itong kay Bellular. Tagal muna natin yung sound. Okay.
Good day, everyone, and we are now live at the grand opening of Lineage 2 Essence New Worlds.
Okay.
Players are already at a low start. They will compete for trophies in multiple disciplines, but of course there will be gifts for everyone who joined us.
Okay.
Welcome back. Okay, it's a new expansion. We're going to gear some characters, and it can all be a bit overwhelming. So today, I'm just going to make it all really simple for you.
You'll have 2 full weeks plus a few days from launch to Season 1, giving you time to get characters set up. Here, you'll have the endgame questline to do, some stages of which are unlocked by gaining reputation with the major factions, dragon riding glyphs to collect, reputations to earn, professions, and then some immediate gearing goals, which we'll focus on today. Also, there are a fair few new things versus Shadowlands, especially today's sponsor.
HelloFresh. Look, I just can't go on eating processed food and wasting my money on delivery apps, which is why I use HelloFresh, where the code BELLYTHER70 will get you 70% off, plus free shipping. Now, their meal kit service is absolutely killer. It's one of the easiest ways to just directly improve your quality of life. All I've got to do is select meals ahead of time on their app. Then they're delivered in a cooled box. I store the food, and that's grocery time done. And when it's time to cook, and today it's a delicious and very quick to cook dal, I just grab the recipe bag and the refrigerated ingredients, I follow their step-by-step recipe, and that's it. Everything is pre-measured, and in their rapid meals, which is so handy for me, they've got awesome time savers, like, you know, the pre-diced chicken, just little time savers like that that are great. So the hassle of the shopping and the planning is gone. And since you get what you need, there's no like random food waste or just tiny amounts of ingredients laying around cluttering up your home. And the dal was absolutely delicious, by the way, and dead easy to prep. It's also just a great way to ease yourself into cooking. So they're carbon neutral, they ship in recyclable packaging, they cut food waste by 25%. Versus fast food, they are cheaper, faster, and much more healthy with complete nutritional information included. HelloFresh truly is a boon to my quality of life, so check them out below at that link where code BELLYTHER70 will get you 70% off. Thank you to HelloFresh, and let's go. Well, this one's simple. Dungeons drop gear. The highest level of that, obviously, is that the 8 Dragonflight dungeons can be done on Mythic 0 difficulty, dropping item level 372 gear. This, of course, is excellent, meaning that you will want to clear all 8 dungeons once per week for these 2 weeks. Heroics, of course, are handy in that they are spammable, and they could be a fast way for you to get some gear to bridge the gap. Now, doing Mythic dungeons will also earn you Titan training matrices. These can drop from the final boss. They're an optional crafting resource that is bind on pickup. Now, don't worry if you're not a crafter, the work order system lets you benefit from these, and I will cover it later. So TLDR, do dungeons. Next, then, we got Primal Storms. So, if you remember the pre-patch event, this will be familiar. Primal Storms are a new feature where every 6 hours, 2 Dragon Isle zones will have a Primal Storm. It'll be marked in your world map. These last for 2 hours, and when they end, a 6-hour timer will start, and then the next one will begin. These, of course, are aspected to earth, fire, wind, and water, and they will cause primalist NPCs to spawn, and also buff up some mobs in the zone. There are no specific objectives for these, rather, it's really just a mob grind for currency. Now, there are 2 currencies, Elemental Overflow and Storm Sigils. Overflow just drops from the mobs. It's got no limit. Storm Sigils, though, are your main concern. You get these from turning in primal cores to an NPC in Valdrakken called Rethishi. Now, these cores are either going to be air, water, fire, or earth, and you can only turn in 1 per element per week, meaning you can earn a total of 4 storm sigils per week. Okay, to what end then? Well, Mithressa and Rethilshi, names are hard, both sell gear. One of them sells item level 359 Raging Tempest gear, which has 2, 4, and 6 set bonuses. And this stuff costs elemental overflow, meaning you'll be able to grind these up pretty easily. Then, Rethilshi, I'll just pronounce her differently every time, I guess, sells item level 385 Raging Tempest gear that also has a set bonus. Now, these will cost your initial gear plus storm sigils, with the armor costing between 5 and 10 storm sigils, and weapons costing between 5 and a rather massive 14 for two-handers. So this definitely is a bit of a slower gearing path. But it is one where, at best, you'll have 2 slots of the 385 gear by the end of the launch fortnight. So while not the most exciting thing, I imagine this will be a solid source of loot, and it should be doable in a group in not that much time, be that with friends, or of course the pre-made group finder, which probably will be packed with people. Now that said, World PvP gear actually has quite a similar system that still is relevant to you for your PvE gear, so we'll cover that in a little bit. Crafting has seen massive change in this expansion, and crafted PvE gear is likely going to be useful to you. So, it starts at a very low item level, but if you remember the Titan training matrices that I mentioned earlier, well, they are optional reagents. They can be added into these armor crafts to allow the armor to be crafted at a higher item level. Now,
Thank you, my son.
The quality of crafts also does depend on the crafter's skill. As an example, Heroic Dungeons drop a rank 3 Titan training matrix. This will cause gear to be crafted between item level 359 and 369. The item level that you actually get will depend on the crafter's material quality, specialization, profession gear, and profession skill. There could be a bit of RNG very early on, but eventually people will have enough skill that they'll always be able to make these items at the highest quality. It is a significantly more deep system, but just as a user of that system, you won't need to worry because I'll cover work orders shortly. So, Mythic 0 end bosses get us what we really want, and that is the Titan Training Matrix rank 4. That lets gear be crafted up to item level 282, which is very high for this pre-season period. This, of course, further emphasizes the importance of doing the Mythic 0 dungeons, because that's what they drop. Now, beyond this item level, we do have Primal Infusions and the Engine of Innovation. But those are only applicable for Season 1, so you really don't have to worry about them now. There's also crafted PvP gear, and I'll cover that a little later. World quests then just operate as they have in the past, to be honest. There's nothing particularly new. Rare mobs drop BOE gear that is in the 360s. I think it's 364, and I guess because it's BOE gear, it'll be on the auction house, but it's not massively important gear, so let's guide on ahead to the basics of PvP, because even if you're a PvE person, it is relevant to you. PvP gear works. Works similar to how it did in Warlords of Draenor, where its item level is scaled to a fixed value when doing PvP content. Now, the items are still upgradable, it's just that the upgrades only impact their PvE item level, and that ensures that the PvP content will be a bit more fair and easier to get into, but it still gives those players some gear power progression. Now, Honor gear starts at item level 340, which is real low, but it scales up to 411 in PvP. Now that honor gear can then, with more honor points, be upgraded to a PvE item level of 366. There's also a conquest vendor, of course, but again, that will be relevant until Season 1 begins. Next then, War Mode. This is actually kind of cool. So Militia sells item level 366 Drake Breaker gear sets and weapons that scale up to item level 408 in PvP. Much like then, with the Primal Storm gear I covered for PvE content, there is another tier above these that requires a time-limited resource. Primal Infused Drakebreaker gear then is really strong. It's basically the equivalent to the Primal Infused Raging Tempest gear. The only difference being that it is particularly strong in PvP. Now, since this is world PvP, there might be some nice situations where you'll be able to progress both of these at the same time. Okay, let's talk about the currencies then. The base set here is earned by doing activities on the Dragon Isles with War Mode enabled. That will get you the currency that you need, and that's just doing PvP-specific world quests, war supply crates, that kind of thing. So, Trophies of Strife, in addition to the base pieces of gear, are needed to get the 385 set. Now, these come from the Sparks of Life quest. This quest takes place on one of the 4 zones of the Dragon Isles. Each week, it awards 4 Trophies of Strife, 500 Honor, and 50 Dragon Isle supplies. Basically, the Trophies of Strife are very similar to the Storm Sigils. I mean, they basically have the same costs. So if you're willing to do some PvP, this will be a fantastic boost. Getting you, I guess, a guaranteed like 2 to 4 between the Storm gear and the World PvP gear, bits of 385 gear for the start of Season 1, which will be pretty damn nice. To move on to crafted PvP gear, basically it works in much the same way as the PvE gear, with the item level benefits coming from the Titan training matrices. Okay, let's cover some other things. So reputation gear, each of the Dragonflight 4 main factions do sell gear ranging from item level 376 to 389. This is in return for Dragon Isle supplies, and there's nothing crazy to say here other than do the reputation content. That's pretty much that. This gear costs Dragon Isle supplies, which are a generic currency that you get from doing the majority of activities on the Isles. So you'll want to do the Siege event, you'll want to do the Tuskar cooking pot event, things like that on a regular basis. And as you progress your reps, you'll get the currency, and this will slowly get you a trickle of pretty good gear. Next then, there's a weekly quest that can be picked up in Valdrakken. You should pick this up as soon as you can. It will ask you to earn reputation with factions and potentially to do another activity. If you complete this quest, you'll get item level 382 gear, which I think makes it a bit of a must, as well as more reputation, Dragon Isle supplies, and then an item that furthers your profession specializations, and Primal Chaos. Now, Primal Chaos is important because it's used in the higher end crafting, but that's crafting that is only relevant for Season 1, so we'll talk about that when the time is right. Crafting orders then. So, what happens if you want crafted gear, but you're not a crafter? Well, the work order system exists. So, you'll be earning these Titan training matrices and other miscellaneous currencies from doing content, and these will be used in professions. You don't have the profession, no problem. You just go to the work order NPC, and here you place a work order for the gear that you want, and you supply your soul-bound, Titan training matrix. A crafter can then fulfill the order for you. Payment and delivery are all handled by the work order system, making it nice and simple. Okay, here's my weekly checklist. This is what I will be doing. Number 1, I will get 4 Storm Sigils from the Primal Invasions. I'll get 4 of the Trophies of Strife from the War Mode quest. I'll do all 8 dungeons at Mythic 0 difficulty. I'll also level up my tailoring so that I can craft my own gear using Titan training matrices for my priest. I'm of course going to clear all of the reputation content that I can so that my weekly reputation earned quest is finished. Now, I'm not going to use my Storm Sigils or my Trophies of Strife initially. I'm going to bank them up until the start of Season 1, because I would rather do all of those Mythic Zeros and then kind of fill in slots that I don't get from drops. Maybe I won't wait until Season 1, maybe I'll just wait until I've done all of the Mythic dungeons on week 2, and then after those dungeons are done, then I'll do the purchasing. Similar goes for crafted gear then. Depending on the Titan training matrices that I get, I will just craft the best quality armor that I can. And overall, that's really the essence of it. Look, for me, this is all quite great. I really love WoW dungeons. They're fun, especially Mythic Zeros, right, where you don't have the timer, so I think that's really cool, especially doing them at a lower item level where there's some challenge. That's dead fun. The world quests in this expansion are much better. They're a bit more paced like the Legion ones, and of course we benefit from flying around on a big, cool dragon riding mount. The Primal Storms are, yeah, they're grand. Kind of okay either way. I mean, who knows, maybe I'll get into a Gulp Frog-like farming thing. personally, I really enjoy world PvP, so that's really good. And with all the new reputations, I want to do them anyway because they have unraveling storylines, and there's the whole endgame campaign that Blizzard kept off the beta that is unlocked as you rank up with your profession. So that'll all be fun to do for its own sake, and I'll unlock some gear along the way. Of course, same goes for professions, which look great. So overall, I think that, say, Shadowlands had a pretty strong honeymoon period. I think that Dragonflight is set up to have actually even better honeymoon period, and unlike Shadowlands, it doesn't seem like this expansion is going to immediately trip up and fall over in its face, which is quite nice as well. So, if you want more help in the game, you can check out this video, potentially maybe check out our Dragon series if you want to learn about some lore, and that's it from me.
Nice. Kaso wala pa rin. Manonood na lang ba tayo? Kala lulubog na naman ako eh. Yan. Ano na pa rin na? Ano na? They should still enable the portal without those quests done, though. Ay. What's happening? I can't do my quest. Buti pa ibang barko dumadating eh. Hey, ano na naman? Nanood na naman tayo. Ayan, okay. Okay. Panoorin nga natin itong ano, Riot MMO. Loot. Monetization. Diyan. Riot MMO loot. Diyan. Raids. Pakita ko na yung raids. Loot. Monetization. Hi. Hello. MMO loot. Loot? Raid. Okay. Wala pa rin. Kaya lazy P yun na lang. Yung one niya. About Ashes of Creation. Yeah. Itong Ashes of Creation. Check natin itong Ashes of Creation. Okay. Saan yun? Pero 1 month ago. Isa rin to sa inaabangan ko eh. Sa Riot. Ano natin? May ads.
The mists have proven far more treacherous.
Ladies and gents, the time is once again upon us where I feel the need to make another Ashes of Creation update video, because the last 3 months of Ashes live streams have each shown considerable progress. Unfortunately for me, this means that certain parts of that big overview update video I made for Ashes 3 months ago is already out of date. No worries though, just means more potential content in the future. So today we're going to discuss the updates from the live streams in August, September and October, covering topics such as the updated world map and world size, the basic hybrid combat system for the Ranger archetype, the newly showcased gathering system which completely blew me away, and some spiciness in the Ashes of Creation community. If you want to support my Ashes of Creation coverage, then click my referral link, which everyone has access to, in the description below. Additionally, if you're a talented developer, Ashes of Creation are currently hiring people for the following job roles on screen. And from November 4th to November 5th, the Ashes team are doing their yearly 24-hour Pathfinder livestream set in the world of Vera to raise money for San Diego Children's Hospital. So first, let's discuss the most recent Ashes livestream, as for me personally, this was the one that surprised me the most: the update to the game's gathering system. So in the past, when I've covered this game during its Alpha 1 test back in 2021, something that felt pretty bad to me was the gathering system. You'd see tons of trees, rocks and plants in the world, but you could only mine, chop or gather the things that had a gold sparkle around them. This at a time when New World had just released the best MMO gathering system we'd ever seen, with every resource you can see being gatherable. The Ashes system felt kinda lackluster in comparison. This wasn't something that I personally expected to change, as the game was already super ambitious. It was kind of unreasonable to think that they'd also add the New World style gathering system on top of everything else they were doing.
Yeah.
Well, turns out that isn't the case.
I love the new UI.
Oh, I know. And the sound. Get ready. It's happening. Oh my gosh! Within an area, is that correct?
Yeah, definitely.
Talk to me a little bit about surveying.
A nice widened shape to scan as much of the area as possible.
The Mad Lads at Intrepid actually did it. Every tree, rock or plant you see in the world is now gatherable. Not only that, but they also added physics and collision to gathering too. Notice how the tree falls, then bounces off the giant rock. Look at the way the branches actually have weight to them when it falls, and the way dust kicks up from the ground as it lands. The game's not even in Alpha 2 yet, and visually, the gathering looks more satisfying than any other MMO, perhaps with the exception of New World. Mining rocks in Ashes of Creation also seems more interesting than the standard MMO, as most of the time you won't know what mineral is inside until you've split the rock open and can see the contents. Here, for example, you can see that the rock contains iron ore, but before you've mined it, you wouldn't know. With some randomness to this system, it would kinda prevent the problem that New World had for a while, of bots just camping orichalcum veins in the world 24/7. Harvesting also looks really nice, and Steven mentioned that some of the plants will be seasonal, some only growing in the winter and others only available in the summer. During this livestream for demonstration purposes, they had the respawn rates turned up extremely high. Resources won't respawn this fast in the live game, but it's cool that they've animated the process of trees slowly regrowing. It kinda reminded me of seeing trees in Arcade slowly grow and only be gatherable once fully matured. Other aspects of gathering that were mentioned include things like a surveying skill to help identify resources in an area. Multiplayer gathering is something that's being looked into, so similar to Lost Ark, if 2 players go to chop a tree then they'll saw it down together. And apparently land management is also going to be a factor. If too many people constantly ravage a certain area for its resources, then those resources might respawn slower. Overall, I was extremely impressed by this early look at the new gathering system for the game, and I expect it to improve even more as development goes on with further polish, improved animations and balancing. They've literally taken the best part of New Worlds and put it in their game, as if the hype levels couldn't go any higher. Moving on to the September livestream, we saw a preview of the updated hybrid combat system for the Ranger class archetype, and holy shit, look at the audio-visual feedback on display here.
Take that guy down.
So they, in the intervening time, they've gotten stronger, they've kind of found some techniques, some help.
More powerful. You can hold this, and when you see that little flash there at the end, that indicates that it's fully charged.
That's a strong ability.
Airstrike does a lot of things. It moves the character and the AoE, and also the targets. It's definitely up there.
Yeah, that ability is so rad.
I love that you can see the limbs of the bow flexing for the powerful attacks. You can hear the tension in the strings, the whistling of the arrow as it flies through the air, as well as impactful hit effects. My favourite ability displayed was Airstrike. Leaping through the air, excellent mobility, raining down arrows in the process. This has got to be up there as one of the coolest ranger abilities I've ever seen in an MMORPG. Something you've probably noticed about the Ranger Combat Showcase is that it leaned a bit more to the tab targeting style rather than the action combat style that was shown off with the Greatsword in the past. Apparently, some people were upset with this and was expecting full action combat, which has never been the goal of Ashes at any point. The goal has always been hybrid combat system where you press a hotkey to switch between the two modes of tab and action. When you do use the bow in action mode, you can use your abilities and attack even if you don't have a target selected, just like in Guild Wars 2. I think some people have concerns about balancing between tab and action, but at this point I think it's the kind of thing that needs to be tested and balanced before we debate it too much. Personally, I'd expect certain classes to work better in action mode, such as warriors with their cleaving attacks, and other classes to work better in tab targeting, such as rangers that are primarily known for single target focused DPS. That being said, the combat design goal is also that you can create different builds that are more action or tab depending on your preference. As we've only seen basic ranger attack plus 3 abilities, I don't think you should throw your toys out the pram just yet, as I'm sure there'll be more action combat centric ranger builds possible in the future as more abilities are added. As a whole though, I've been super impressed with the past 2 combat showcases. The game's come a long way since Alpha 1, and I personally can't wait to see what they do with mage combat. I've said multiple times in the past that I expect Ashes combat to be similar to Guild Wars 2 but better, more impactful, more grounded with better audio-visual feedback. So far it seems like my prediction for this is on target to come true. Next up, the development livestream from August, and this was the one that made my most recent Ashes vid outdated 2 weeks after it released. Thanks for that, Stephen. So previously, the world size was 480 kilometers squared and the world would contain 103 regular nodes. This is a picture of the old world map. After some internal testing though, the team realised that it needed to be rebalanced, as with 103 nodes on a 480 square kilometer map, there wasn't enough space between the nodes. This is the new Ashes of Creation map. This one is 1,200 kilometers squared, and instead of 103 regular nodes, it's been reduced down to 85. So the world size has essentially increased by 2.5x. Some would say this is feature creep, but the fact that they've actually reduced the number of nodes, I would have to disagree, and I see it more as rebalancing. Just to give some context to the scale of this world, Stephen said it would take roughly 75 minutes to travel from the top of a continent to the bottom on foot, and 50 minutes to travel from the top to the bottom on a mount. That's one giant-ass world. I think it takes roughly 1 hour to run on foot from the top of Eastern Kingdoms to the bottom in WoW, so maybe it's a similar size or slightly larger, and that doesn't take into consideration the massive, fully explorable ocean with islands. I just hope that 10,000 concurrent players per server is enough to make such a large world feel populated. It was during this live stream that Steven also mentioned that the open seas will be open PvP zones. A controversial decision, but one of the game's major design pillars is risk versus reward. There will be alternate methods of travel you could take to avoid PvP, such as flight paths between coastal nodes and airships, but these methods will not allow the transit of gatherables. The way I see it is that the open seas in Ashes of Creation is kinda similar to RuneScape's Wilderness. It will probably be a place where you can make some of the best money in the game, however you're going to need to be on guard at all times. Even if you disagree with this decision and aren't interested in actually partaking in the PvP, it's undeniable that there's a certain level of thrill associated with the possibility of being hunted down by other players. In RuneScape, for example, the Wilderness contains some of the best money-making PvE mobs in the game for players to farm. Does the fact that these players are sometimes hunted deter them? Not really. Instead, PvE players develop methods to run away, make things harder for PKers, and give themselves the best chance of escape with their loot intact. I'd expect it to be possible to do something similar.
Wait lang. What? Ayusin ko yung character ko. Yun. Meron dito. Hindi pa rin. Everything I want, about boat that works. Hindi na dumating yung boat eh. Paano yan? Wait for the rug. Wait lang ha. Hindi na dumating.
In Ashes, create specific builds or craft certain ships that allow PvE players to have a better chance of success in the game of cat and mouse on the seas of Vera. Finally, to wrap up this video, we've had a bit of drama in the Ashes of Creation community recently, following a video by Lucky Ghost bringing up concerns about the potentially polarizing nature of the PvP flagging system in Ashes of Creation. My take on this is that the video was pretty good and brought up some valid concerns that are clearly shared by a lot of people. However, I don't see the point in speculating too much about things that may or may not be design issues until we've had the chance to play and test the game. If the system is dog shit and the vast majority of people complain about it, then I think Intrepid will change things, but I don't see the point in doing so until we know the specifics of how players will inevitably abuse the system. This video's also brought up the debate on if the game should have separate PvP and PvE servers, and personally I think that's a bad idea because Steven has spent years designing this game with the intention that PvP is a major component that makes accomplishments have meaning. It's so deeply integrated into the game that having a new world style toggle or separate servers is going to fuck up a lot of systems. What's the point of the entire caravan system with localized storage without the risk of PvP when you're transferring your goods? It's just going to feel like a system designed to waste your time. How about the game's bounty hunter system? Just delete it? Change the feeling of the open seas from being risk versus reward content where you're sailing around looting treasure whilst avoiding pirates, to being a pirateless ocean that you just numlock from one side to the other? In asking for separate PvP and PvE servers, you're basically asking the developers to balance two different versions of the game due to how PvP is so deeply integrated into every system. Sure, PvP and PvE servers can work in theme park MMOs like WoW, because PvP isn't so deeply tied into the systems and reward structure of the game. Imagine you're on a PvP server and a world boss spawns during a certain time window. After 2 hours, the boss will despawn. Maybe the boss isn't mechanically hard, but takes an hour to take down. The challenge is fending off other guilds also trying to contest the boss for a long period of time. Such an encounter would feel like a King of the Hill style engagement, and would probably reward great loot. This same boss on a PvE server would be boring as hell, because it's a sack of health in which the challenge was killing it whilst fending off other players. This boss would be killed on cooldown every day on a PvE server, whereas on a PvP server there might be some days where no single guild can take it down. I just feel like the way Ashes of Creation is designed, having a PvE server would almost feel like a tourist mode, because so much of the emotion and challenge in the game's experience will come from friction between players. Additionally, whenever a game takes such a massive deviation from their core vision and removes something that previously touches every system in the game, it typically doesn't go so well. So like I said, let's see how the current system works first. It's not as if there's no successful open PvP games. Lineage 2 was massive during its time, Arcade was huge at release but died due to reasons unrelated to its PvP system, and Black Desert Online has done pretty well over the years with a ton of pure PvE life skiller players enjoying it despite its highly flawed flagging system. If anyone can design an open world PvP flagging system that actually works well, I think Intrepid are the ones to do it. Who knows, if they actually do a good job, we might see more people start to see the value in the risk vs reward aspects that PvP can bring to an MMO. I can totally understand why people are so against PvP though, because in the past, let's be honest, other games have done a really bad job with it.
Oh my god, this guy's a clown. This guy is such a shill, and nobody should be supporting this guy, ever.
And to the people shitting on Lucky Ghost for having a Raid Shadow Legends ad in his video, I think that's kinda pathetic honestly. If you was in his position, and you knew the numbers behind YouTube, you would also take that ad. If you're putting an opinion out there on the internet for thousands of nerds to argue over, you're fucking stupid if you're not getting paid well for it. The amount of abuse that content creators deal with for simply having a different opinion can heavily affect mental health. Most people skip these ads anyway, anyone with a brain knows it's just reading from a script to get paid, and putting these small, easy to skip ads in videos often results in you getting paid 5 times the amount you'd get from regular YouTube AdSense. Remember that life is also an MMORPG and you need money to play it. But that's it for this Ashes of Creation update video. We've covered lots of stuff in this one, together with a bit of spicy drama at the end for good measure. If you enjoyed the content, then destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm gods, and go nuts in the comments with some healthy, constructive discourse which the MMO community is famously known for. Social media on screen, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Okay. Aso? Wala pa rin. Ano ba yan? Oh, paano makakapag-start? Hindi na ako nakapag-start. Ano ba yan? Ano, maghihintay na lang? Wait, walang sound. Ano na? Nawala na yung ano ah. Wala ko. Ayun, ako ka-dragon. Buti pa yung dumarating eh. Broken again. May ano to? Oh, ito na. Eh, ano dun, oh? Ano po? May ganun. Na-stuck na, oh. Hindi na nakapag start ng quest. Excited pa naman ako. Naka-fatigue na pala ako nun. Mamatay na pala ako. Oo, ano pa yun? May ganun pa yun, no? Ngayon ko lang na ano to, ah. Ayan. Uy! Oh, diba? Ba't? Abot naman pala eh. Ba't kanina ayaw? Oh. Oh, yeah. Triple jump. Anis. No. No target. Oh. Ayan. Nasa edge. Ay, sakit na naman. Takot na lang ng tenga ko. Check natin yung interview ni Noble. Pa rin. Ano ko to? Monk to. Huh? Pandaran pala. Pero ano. Dami na namin dito, oh. Can you get it? Ay. Ayan. So 33 minutes lang to. Check natin. Oop.
Grammarly helps you work more efficiently, which makes accomplishing your work goals easier. Get full sentence rewrite suggestions to help you say what you mean fast.
Hello everyone.
Okay.
Today we're doing something rather special. I got to sit down with none other than Steve the Noozer, narrative director for World of Warcraft. We're getting closer to the release of Dragonflight, and while I would love for them to spoil the entire story before it's even told, I figured that it might be wiser to ask some other questions, like how do they view the way that the story is being told in the game, how do they look back at adding the jailer at the tail end of it, or where did the center come from? All of that and more in this video. Timestamps will be in the description. Of course, thank you so much to Steve for sitting down with me and everyone else that made this happen. With that, sit back, relax, and I hope you'll enjoy. Steve, thank you very much for giving me the time of day to actually do this interview. Hello there.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm very happy to talk to you.
It's been a long time coming, I think. Before I dive into the question, because I got 30 minutes and I could honestly talk to you with about lore for 5 hours. My understanding is that you are the lead narrative designer at World of Warcraft. Could you very quickly tell us what it's all about?
Yeah, actually, I'm the narrative director now of World of Warcraft, and yeah, so I oversee the high-level story, our planning, our plot lines as they unfold. I work with a group of creatives to kind of flesh out what our expansion plans are and kind of pitch storylines and the characters that will be involved and those kinds of things. And then take those ideas and talk about them with the team and energize them and get them excited about where our storylines are going and for all the content that they're going to build. Yeah, that's really the main areas I oversee. We have a narrative team that we've built up over the years, and they work closely with our quest designers and our content team and other people who are making the World of Warcraft content to ensure that story is woven through everything that we do. And it's really a joy to work in this great universe that so many people like yourself care so deeply about.
Very deeply, as you most likely also read on the internet. And now our adventures are going to go into the Dragonflight into the Dragon Isles. Now, obviously, I would love to ask you questions and like reveal the story that is to come, but I think that would be unfair. Let the story unfold itself. So I would rather talk about the design philosophy and where we come from as we go into the new expansion. So first of all, my question is, I've had a few friends of mine come back into the story, and a lot of people on stream ask as well. They would love to experience the story of Warcraft within World of Warcraft itself. And over the years, that's become rather difficult, with patch content removed, the Cataclysm revamp. In Shadowlands, for example, with the Covenants now being unlocked, all the chapters are thrown at you in one go. How does the team view this problem of narrative storytelling, and are there any plans in the works to fix this, to make this better experience?
Well, you're right that there is a ton of content that has been added to World of Warcraft over the years. And, we do spend a lot of time thinking and talking about, the best ways to curate that and to make it accessible. And when we introduced Chromie Time, that was one of the ways that we tried to, let's present these expansions as kind of storylines that you can delve into and try to experience as what it feels like to level up through those and play your characters through those. And there was a lot of successes there and things we want to keep refining and want to think about. And there's times where we have taken content out of the game, but that's never our preference. We usually try to find a way to make it still persist. Obviously, back in the day of Cataclysm, I wasn't around, so I'm not sure all the decisions that went into that, but that was probably the biggest change to the existing world. And but these days, what we try to do is make that content accessible, and we would love to hear from the community about your ideas about how to better surface that, how to make it clearer where these pieces of content are. Another addition we made to the game was like our campaign interface, which didn't exist in the older expansions, but that's been a great way to help people at least have insight into kind of the thread that they're on and the campaign that they're playing through at a time. But we talk about ways to better surface that. So it's an ongoing process, and we don't feel like we're there yet, but want to keep working at it. And we have a great UI team that really wants to help us present our content in the best way possible. So those are discussions we continue to have with them.
And imagine feedback would be on the forums or on Twitter. But then one of the things people run into is, for example, in order to experience the storyline, an example would be Sylvanas' motivation when it comes to work with the jailer. They have to go to third parties, like books, or that the books themselves are being told from a perspective now. So it's not even actual clear information. It's rather an opinion or a character that tells the storyline. What is the design plan going forward in Dragonflight? Can we expect the story to be in books again, or what is the design behind that?
Well, again, I can't speak to the decisions that were made in the past, but the way that I look at it for when we have our novels is that we want to tell stories that best fit the medium that they are, that the strengths of the medium. So the game is about gameplay, and it's about playing a game, and certainly we have lots of cinematics and we have lots of dialogue and things like that, but we want our storyline to come through the action, through the world itself, through the places you go, the things you see happening, and that your character is able to engage with, and then punctuate those gameplay experiences with highly action moments that our cinematics can do really well, or emotional moments that, as you've seen, our amazing cinematics team keeps leveling up their skills at being able to convey those emotions. I think that books and print, whether it's comics or novels, I think those are really good at getting inside the mind of characters. And so when it comes to something like showing a perspective of someone, that's a strength of print media. As opposed to in the game, where it's much harder to see those insights unless they're kind of monologuing or kind of telling you very exposition heavy kind of, where you're just sitting and listening. And some people like that, but we like the game to be much more visceral in terms of you're playing through something. So
the game is more focused on the gameplay, whereas the books are to add to it. So if we take, for example, the Shadowlands as an example, like Sylvanas' motivation with the jailer, the whole Lirov connection, for example, is not portrayed in the game until after the fact. Like, we got Lirov added to the Ghostlands, I believe, like after thing, but it's not exactly clearly explained in-game. If we look at the balance that the Shadowlands had when it comes to storytelling, or for example, the Cataclysm, where Karen died in a book, how does that balance going forward work?
Yeah, well, I don't want to use the books to have major events happen within them that you won't see in game. So like your example of Karen dying in the book, or some of the stuff with the trial of Garrosh and how it transitioned into Warlords of Draenor. Like, I would prefer that the books do more to kind of reveal extra information about things that are happening in the world. And so in that regard, like the Sylvanas novel was really great in that we got to see both history that we can't really portray in the game in any sort of, in that same depth and meaning. And we also got to see some of her insights as she was going through things in the Shadowlands. Now, I will say that we could have done a stronger job of showing some of those motivations in game, and we could have done more with that as well. And that's a lesson that we learn going forward in terms of our storytelling and how we get those important character moments across. So it's always a learning process for us. I don't think that we, hopefully we try not to repeat ourselves, and that we're always trying to improve our craft. And that was part of the process too, of thinking about Dragonflight and what kind of books we want associated with this expansion. And we didn't do a novel that we had set between the two expansions that had a lot of backstory or had a lot of things that you kind of needed to know going into the expansion. We are doing a short story that will be coming out in the near term, but cool. But that was more about giving a specific moment in time that is more flavorful, and it doesn't, whether you read it or not doesn't really impact your
Beautiful.
enjoyment of
and the short story
to go into Dragonflight
will be available on the WoW website as well, I'd imagine.
Yep.
The short story.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
Life is many things. It's messy, but the kind of mess we love.
Beautiful.
Absolutely, for free for everyone to read.
Always great to hear. About lessons learned for the Shadowlands, we saw a major impacts that are going to ripple on in the future of the storytelling. And when we're talking about Shadowlands, we have to talk about the Jailer. They've been retroactively added basically at the tail end of the story of Warcraft, as in the Jailer pretty much made the story of Warcraft happen up to the point of the Shadowlands, if I understood it right. Looking back at that decision and looking back at the reception of the Jailer and how that all played out, how does the team look at that?
Well, I wouldn't put it that, certainly the Jailer and the influence of death is probably the larger influence that is seeded through Warcraft's history. And I think you can still play through that content or read those experiences and just take them for what they are if you want. You can play Warcraft 3 still today. You can play through our Wrath of the Lich King expansion now in Classic, and you can take those stories as you want. But with Shadowlands, what we were trying to show was that death with a capital D is this kind of cosmic influence that has touched Azeroth in ways that were different, but yet similar to how forces like Order have touched Azeroth, or how the Void has touched Azeroth and affected its history. So what that really was about doing was showing that that death is a force that wants things, that all these cosmic forces are driven to become kind of the dominant force in the universe. And the Jailer and what he was trying to do by reaching Zereth Mortis and going into the Sepulchre, that was about him trying to make death the dominant force in the cosmos. And while we thwarted him there, the implications of that story do affect how we look at these cosmic powers and their role in the universe. And so I think in that regard, it gave us a lot of fuel for future storylines and hopefully make fans, give them some interesting things to think about and chew on.
Because there was mention in game, I believe in the new dungeon released today, with the books of the first ones, that there are more Zeros out there. So not just for the domain of death, but also all the other cosmic domains. But you mentioned that you could still experience the story of Warcraft and the Lich King and everything that's built upon without the touch of the jailer. But at the end of the day, it was the jailer and in combination with the Nephrius and the influence of the Dreadlords that caused all these events to happen pretty much since the dawn of Azeroth. If we take a look at all the events that happened that led into stopping the jailer, one could argue that, okay, we had a storyline where a force like Kil'jaeden or the Burning Legion had threat and responsibility, but actually it was the jailer, or the Titans did something, but actually it was the jailer. Isn't that a major change retroactively to a storyline that was already established?
Well, the jailer and his allies, because it wasn't just him, he was locked away in the maw, but he had allies who were helping him, and people like Denathrius had agents of their own. So it doesn't change the things that the Legion did. It doesn't change the things that Kil'jaeden put in motion. It just shows that there were other forces who were nudging some of those things along. But we didn't change any of the history of the events of Warcraft 3 or Wrath of the Lich King. Those things happened just as they play out in those games. We didn't touch any of that stuff. We just wove in some additional motivation and some machinations kind of behind the scenes. The books that you can now find in the Uldaman revamped dungeon add some additional texture and thought, but again, none of that is saying that the jailer or the forces of death manipulated the Titans. That's still a separate storyline. It was really that there was some manipulation of the Legion and what they were trying to do in order to get the influence of death rooted in Azeroth. That was really what was going on there, because again, the jailer needed that energy of Azeroth to be drawn into Zereth Mortis to do what he wanted to do, which was reshape the cosmos in his own image.
Okay. Speaking of Woven and Zereth Mortis and everything, especially the books as well that we're going to see, there's again the mention of the first ones. And if I understood the storyline with the first ones correctly, once upon a time we had the Titans that brought order to the universe, and the first ones are established as a mysterious force that brought order to the cosmic domains, if I understood it right. But it also meant that there was a woven fate, a true Mawwalker, gateways opening to us, prophesized. A lot of it seemed to be like there was already a path destined for us. Now with the defeat of the jailer and Shadowlands come to a close, are we still walking the path predestined by the first ones, going into Dragonflight, or is that completely closed off now?
So it wasn't that the first ones laid out an exact path that mortals were walking. I think what the first ones did, because they are these beings that kind of sit above the cosmic forces that we've known so far, like the Titans and the Void Lords. The first ones predate them. And what they did was prepare for eventualities, is the way that I would put it. So if you think about how like the Titans represent belief in one path, one structure, and the Void represents all things being possible, you could imagine that the first ones, who sit kind of above them on that cosmic scale, have elements of both of those things. So, and those are different perspectives, but yet there can be ways that those outlooks can work together. So the things with that the first ones kind of left behind for us in the Shadowlands, it was not that, they are going to follow this one path. It was that these are things that someday, if the flow of the universe plays out in ways that they could foresee, that these mortals who would become increasingly important for the fate of the cosmos, that they would have some of these tools available to them. So it wasn't predetermined, but they put some things out there into the universe that might be of use for us.
But the keepers in Zereth Mortis and those that we come across in the mall, they literally read our anima and they say, the prophecies have fulfilled, the predestined Mawwalkers, as well as the locations are extremely precise. Like there's one in the Maw that we needed, the one in Corvia that we needed, and one is Zero Mortis. And Zero Mortis is a domain where nobody was actually supposed to go. But it's specifically spot where we were predestined to go to that the keepers say, like, oh, Maw, Walker of Fate, you've come here. Similar to how the jailer was not just stabbing in the dark in order to get his plans going. He could predict at the end of Wrath of the Lich King that Sargeras was not going to destroy Azeroth. He was not going to miss Azeroth. He was going to precisely stab him in such a way that the blood of Azeroth was going to fulfill his plan. So while the idea of the first ones are predestined, it seems like the storyline supports a more accurate path as we know what's going to go.
Well, I think that, the thing you need to keep in mind is perspective and belief as well. So like the denizens that the attendants, for example, that we met in Oribos or in Corthia, or some of the enlightened brokers that we met in Zereth Mortis, these were people who believed in something. They were sort of, they had these things, whether you think of them as prophecies or doctrines that they believed in, they've been kind of waiting a very long time for some of these things to come to pass. And when somebody believes in a prophecy or a doctrine like that, they look for ways to make it true when someone shows up that does something that falls in line. We see that in the real world all the time, of like people want a pattern to be true, or they want a theory to be true. And when they see things that they can put into that pattern to make it seem true, it feels like a prophecy fulfilled. And so whether that's exactly true or whether it's just a point of view of these characters is something that you can think about and debate. But in no way has the fate of the mortals of Azeroth been pre-written, and they're just kind of walking through a script. The thing that separates mortals from magical beings is free will. That's something that's unique to the mortal soul. That's what makes it distinct. Even when you were in the Shadowlands, there was a difference between souls that had come over and the things that they did versus beings that were of magic, of death magic in that case. And so while magical beings are kind of driven by the influence that they are a part of to promote that influence, to propagate that influence, to try to make that influence the most dominant force in the cosmos, it's mortals who have the free will to decide what their destiny is, what their fate is, which way they're going to do, which powers they're going to embrace. That's why as players, we can embrace all these different sorts of powers and use them kind of at our will. It's because mortals have that choice, and that's unique among the beings who are rooted in magic.
I love that you say, like, free will is very important for character design. And you mentioned earlier, like, that they had this belief and that they made their own prophecies, like, kind of, they want it to happen. But at the same time, there's, like, proof is in the pudding. Like, they tell us, like, if you are the true Maulwalker, this gateway, as prophesied, will open up for you. And wouldn't you know it, it actually opens up for us. So it does seem like the game supports the idea of predestined. But that is a debate. Oh, I would love to talk to you for 5 hours. You have no idea. But we only have 30 minutes today. Going for Dragonflight, real quick to the first ones. Could you tell us, like, will we see much more influence of them?
Of the first ones?
Yeah.
Dragonflight is really rooted back in terrestrial Azeroth and dealing with the stories of the dragons, their connection to the Titans. That's a big storyline. So no, this isn't an expansion that's rooted in the cosmic powers or the stories of the first ones. Really, it is really focused on the aspects, the kind of legacy that they have, that connection to the Titans,
like Emerald Dream. Oh.
The Emerald Dream, all of that stuff. So we really wanted to root the story in this. Those cosmic themes are out there, and they'll certainly inform future plot lines and things like that. But Dragonflight is really about what's going on in Azeroth with the aspects.
Awesome. Like, honestly, I hope I don't come across as too rough or too cross, because it's all out of a passion for the world of Warcraft and the storyline that we all love.
I totally understand.
Very excited about Dragonflight as well. Like, so far what we've seen, going back to the grounded thing, not just the game mechanics, but also storyline build-up is great. I think we've got like a couple more minutes left, so I got a lightning round of questions that I'm very curious about. Azeroth has been said to be cleansed of the old gods. N'Zoth, Kafun, Yogg-Saron, Y'Shaarj, all gone. Is that true?
The influence of the Void, as embodied by the old gods, has not gone away. While we've defeated some of the old gods themselves, We did beat them on the mortal plane after all, and they are not beings of the mortal plane. And if you can extrapolate some of the kind of cosmic rules of what that means, then that kind of gives you your own answer, or at least some things to think about.
You know, I wanted to I wanted to follow it up, but I love it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, so we've seen the time skip in game, and just today on the PTR we got like the wedding of Lord Mar Felistra. Some time has passed on Azeroth, just to give it a chill moment. Now we've also seen at the Forsaken that they have unlocked the power to cleanse the Blight from Lordaeron. What about Gilneas? Will we ever see the return of Gilneas for the Worgen? Is that perhaps something in the works?
That is a storyline that we have not forgotten about.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. The Centaur on the Dragon Isles. In the Collector's Edition, it clarifies that the Centaur are, that the ones we know are merely a copy of the ones that came before, the ones on the Dragon Isles. So where exactly did the ones on the Dragon Isles come from?
Well, I wouldn't call it a copy per se, but what I would say is that Centaur are a native race to Azeroth. They've been around for a long time, and so they date back to the time when there was the supercontinent of Kalimdor. And so the Maruk Centaur that we see in Dragon Isles, the Centaurs were very contentious, just like the ones that we know today. And the Maruk broke off because they were a bit more enlightened. They wanted to get away from the conflict, and that took them to the lands that would be the Dragon Isles. And really, the Centaur that had existed in the rest of Kalimdor just fought one another to extinction. And so you didn't see the Centaurs that were kind of more located in central Kalimdor died off. And it was just the Maruk that we know of that persisted. But that doesn't change the mythology that we know of the Centaurs. And the Kalimdor Centaurs of modern Warcraft, they were kind of reintroduced to the world through those magical means. And so the Centaurs we know today are kind of their own reintroduction, I guess you would say. But the roots of Centaurs date back to the early history of Azeroth itself.
Okay, so the original Centaur, they were always just there, because we were kind of wondering, like, so we have Fetidras and Zatar, son of Cenarius, they got together and they made the Centaur that we've always known. And now we got these original ones. So the whole idea of Cenarius together with Fedazane is not a thing. They were just native creatures of the land.
Well, again, like we're not changing that storyline at all, but that was a reintroduction of new tribes of Centaurs to the world. The older ones, apart from the Maruk, as far as we know, had died off.
Okay, and they were just there, similar to like the Tauren, how they were always there. Yeah. Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, the mortal races, they've evolved over time as well. But from that kind of primordial age when mortals first started to emerge.
Okay. This one, I'm already ready for a shutdown. There's been some data mine stuff when it comes to the Green Dragon Ysera. In the Collector's Edition, we also see a beautiful symbol of Ysera and Refyon, but not her daughter Marifra. But Ysera has been bound in the Shadowlands to Ardenweald. What does that mean for her future in Dragonflight?
Well, that is...
Ang tawag po dito ay si Huawei Mate 50 Pro. Ito po yung pinaka-innovative phone in 2022. In terms of design, in terms of display, in terms...
Well, that is a big storyline that plays out through the course of Dragonflight, and yeah, I don't think it's a secret at this point to say that Ysera is certainly involved in the storyline, but her role needs to change because she was awakened in Ardenweald through the Winter Queen's direct intervention, and that means that she didn't get reborn through the normal cycle of slumbering at Ardenweald, then emerging into the dream. And if she had done that, then maybe she could have returned to Azeroth as she was. But now she is bound to that power, and so she is bound to both life and to death. And that's going to have implications on her storyline. And Marithra is very much a part of that story as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, if Elune wills it, she will soar through the skies again. Okay. Dragons and the Domain of Order are going to play their part in the storyline, as we've already seen from the whole Primalist section coming up. Could you hint at other primal forces that we might see play a part in the expansion? Some of the cosmic force, I should say. Sorry.
Again, we're not really delving into the cosmic forces as these kind of disembodied things. There's certainly Titan stuff that plays out in this expansion because the history of dragons and Titans are so tied together. And in fact, when the expansion starts, Alexstrasza is looking for a way to re-empower the aspects because they've got this enemy that they need to face, and they were only able to defeat before when they were at their full strength, and they're much diminished now compared to what they once were. And her first instinct is to, well, Tyr isn't around anymore, so how could we re-empower ourselves? And in the Dragon Isles are these oath stones that were the symbol of the Titans' bond with the dragons. And she thinks that if they can set the flights right, that will re-empower these oath stones, and maybe that magic can restore the aspect. So that's guiding us through the level up experience of Dragonflight, and you'll see those oath stones through the course of the story. And whether that works or not, whether she has to try something else, that remains to be seen. But that relationship between the dragons and the Titans, both in their history and the implications of that, are very much part and parcel of this storyline.
Awesome. Yeah, it's one of the more interesting ones. The feedback I've seen so far, like it's reminiscent of the Kyrian storyline with the Mawsworn, where you see that there's this story established, and yet there's more to it. Now, when it comes to Kyrian and Mawsworn, we saw that, for example, Devils was quickly taken off the stage, and we were quickly allying to just the Kyrian. It's their way, even though at the end of the fact, it was shown that the Mawsworn actually had a valid point. Do you feel similar to the Dragonflight storyline as it's building up so far? For those worried that we might have a repeat of history, do you have anything to say to them?
In terms of repeating which part of history?
Just signing up with the Kyrians, like for example, just signing all the Titans, they're the good guys, and their other point of view is swept to the side, and we're just gonna wipe them out.
Yeah, well, I think that some of our best villains, both in Warcraft and in other media, start with having understandable motivations. And when you look at the Incarnates, the first one of which is Razageth that we see unleashed, and you think about what the Primalists were driven by, they have a valid point. Their entire philosophy was just rooted in this idea that dragons should not be touched by outside influences. They should be free to be their own beings and not be changed by the magic of the Titans, for example. And that was a disagreement at first, and disagreements led to conflict, and conflict led to war. And what makes someone a villain is not necessarily the ideology they have all the time. Sometimes it can be the actions that they will take in service of that ideology. So with the Incarnates, even though they started in an understandable place, they've done some very nasty things throughout history, and we will learn more about that as the story unfolds. And we will see that they started out with, again, those relatable intentions, but ended up in a place that the aspects really had to fight against them for the sake of preserving not only their own kingdom but Azeroth as a whole.
Yeah, like honestly, the things that you're saying right now, it's making me more and more excited about the story of Dragonflight, honestly, with that mindset. I think we're just about out of time. My last question to you is, if you had to pick one thing to be most excited about for the story of Dragonflight, without spoilers, what would it be?
It honestly is just adventuring alongside the aspects and seeing them be awesome again. They've, after giving up their powers to defeat Deathwing, they had a downturn, and they've been kind of adrift a bit in terms of what their future was, what they were doing, and this whole expansion is really about making these characters awesome again, and to soar alongside them. Like you saw in our cinematic, there's that feeling of being in their presence and seeing them do these awesome things and helping them, find not only the greatness that they once had, but like what is their future. That's just an awesome, fun story to tell, and I'm super excited. Our whole team really embraced that and was excited about all these characters, and I think that love and care will come through as you're playing through the expansion.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I hope everybody at home is as hyped as I am, and thank you very much for your time for answering all of our questions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Let's talk again.
Yes, please. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
And there you have it, the end of the interview. Again, thank you so very much to Steve and everybody else at Blizzard for making this happen, for sitting down with me and letting me do this interview. I had a blast. I think I mentioned it mid-interview. I could sit down with them for 6 hours and deep dive into the story that they're being told, that they're doing, feedback on and all that. All in all, my major takeaway from this is that they're telling me everything right. They're telling me that there's going to be an adventure in Dragonflight, that we're going to go back to basics, that instead of dealing with fractures and cosmic forces, like the cosmic forces will play their part, but they're not going to take front and center. That has me excited. And I mentioned this during the reactionary trailer for the pre-patch. When they drop a trailer or cinematic and my reaction to it is pretty much one-on-one with how they wanted to convey it, that means they got a mindset when it comes to the storytelling. Obviously, interviews, I'm hoping that the mindset is actually going to become a reality. I'm hoping that we're going to see that delivered within Dragonflight. I'm excited for the launch. I'm excited for the coming month. And beyond that, only time is going to tell. For now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya!
What? I'm ready.
Wala pa rin. 2 hours na. Wala pa rin.
This is how we make
Up.
-1/6. Are you crazy? This is how we make -1/6. Fall, freeze, crash, extinct.
Ay, wala pa rin. Ano ba naman yan? Ay! Ano yan? Nood muna tayo.
Figured the community would enjoy this Drakthir Lady Assyria. Yeah, so like this is what I had expected that Drakthir would be like. And the thing is, like, do y'all see any stupid shit on her forehead? Like, I know I don't want to ruin the picture, but like, there's no stupid shit on her forehead, man. She just got horns on her head. That's what the Drakthir was supposed to be. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, yeah, you can remove that. You can't do it all the way. You can remove the forehead part? Nah, I'm pretty sure you can't. Like, not all the way. Like, you can make it to where you almost can't see it, but you're still gonna be able to see it. Like, so you can go from, like, dragon to Klingon, but you can't go from dragon to person.
Ay! Wala pa rin. Panoorin na nga natin to.
Well, I already made 4 MMO videos, and at the end of the last one I said that would be my last one. Because up until that point I was simply showing people what already exists. Going past that point would be pure theory crafting. But no one said I can't talk about something that people already talked about. Okay, not entirely. You see, a lot of people mention some good and big reasons why Riot's MMO is set up for success. I will repeat some of those points in this video. But the reason why I decided to talk about this topic as well is because as someone who has been with Riot Games for over a decade, I know their patterns of behavior. I know their entire past when it comes to monetization, and that means all the good stuff and the bad stuff. I know their past when it comes to their game's success. And I know what they do when things don't go well. And some of these points tell us a lot about how Riot's MMO is shaping up. On top of all of this, Canon had the exclusive interview with Ghostcrawler, where we got quite a few golden nuggets, which includes a line that pretty much tells us that yeah, Riot is gonna go through with the MMO.
One of the nice things about Riot is we're not going to run out of money, right? I'm not going to have a publisher that's like, hey, if you got to ship by Christmas or we're canceled. Riot will cancel this game if the game isn't good enough. They're not going to cancel the game because it gets too expensive.
This sounds great. So after combining all of this, suddenly I have a new topic to talk about. The real reason why Riot's MMO is set up for success. Let's start with all the things that we already know about. Perhaps the biggest reason for Riot being on the right path is already having a loyal following. When World of Warcraft launched for the first time, there were lines forming up around entire blocks. And why was that? Well, first of all, it's because digital purchasing was not a thing. But more importantly, because people knew the Warcraft universe from the other games. And they knew Blizzard as a great developer. Of course, Riot is riding the same wave. Hopefully with a different destination. People know League's universe from League of Legends. And Riot is essentially where Blizzard used to be. They are known for their great games, exactly as Blizzard used to be. They are known for taking a game idea, polishing it, and making it better than its inspiration. Exactly as Blizzard used to be. Speaking of which, if you're a fan of MMOs and you don't know much about Riot Games, you might be surprised to see all the successful games they have released. Of course, League of Legends launched as the better, simpler version of the Dota mod from Warcraft 3. Nearly 10 years later, Riot launched their second game, Teamfight Tactics, which was a new version of the auto chess from Dota 2. And once again, using characters people already know and love from League, Teamfight Tactics dominated its competition. And it now remains as the only big and still growing auto chess game on the market. Then we got the third game, a card game using League's characters called Legends of Runeterra. From all of the Riot's games, Legends of Runeterra is the only game that didn't fully dominate its game genre. That's because card games already have a very narrow audience, and digital card games slowed down their growth. But on top of that, it is hard to pull someone away from their card game if they already spent money on it. However, despite that, Legends of Runeterra still managed to match Hearthstone. So these two are still battling for dominance, with the other card games being very close. After this we got Valorant, a new player-friendly version of Counter-Strike. Or at least new player-friendly compared to Counter-Strike, which is also using iconic characters for marketing. Even this game managed to dominate the tactical shooter genre. And now it is doubling the numbers of their two main competitors, Rainbow Six Siege and Counter-Strike. But then, after Valorant, Riot went back to MOBAs. They looked at Mobile Legends Bang Bang. That's the
Lazada Budo Alert! Find the everyday 99 pesos and below banner on the homepage. Shop 99 pesos and below deals.
That's the real name, by the way. They realized it was essentially a League of Legends on mobile, and they realized, why don't we do that? But better. And so Riot released League of Legends Wild Rift, a mobile version of League of Legends, which in many ways could be regarded as even better than League of Legends on PC. I mean, look at all those polygons. That's running on a phone. On top of that, even though it is a mobile game, it is using fairly standard monetization. And right now, while Wild Rift is dominating in the West, Mobile Legends Bang Bang is still dominating in the East in some countries. So Riot is currently in the process of dominating the game genre. But Riot did not end here. They recognized that people wanted to play more games with their League of Legends characters. And so they launched Riot Forge, a smaller publishing studio that is working with indie developers to make games with their IP. And here we already got two games. Hextech Mayhem is a League of Legends spin on the rhythm-based Bitrunner, a 30-minute game which I have about 10 hours in, and Ruined King, which is about 40-hour-long RPG that is telling a canon story from the universe. Also, you can find me here.
You may simply call me Necrit.
That's me! But in 2023 we are also expecting two more games. Song of Nunu, which seems to be an adventure platformer taking place in the harsh Freljord, and Convergence, a 2D action platformer in Piltover that seems to be lining up really well with Arcane 2. Both of these games were delayed from 2022 to 2023. Because... guess what? No, it's not crunch time. It's because Riot Games actually care about their games, with the two already released Riot Forge titles scoring 80% and 90% of overall positive feedback. So, the takeaway from this is, yes, Riot has a history of nearly flawless game releases. They have not seriously flopped yet. And their monetization practices are not too far away from this. In Canon's interview, Ghostcrawler straight up mentioned they will not sell player power.
We're not going to do pay to win. We're not going to do pay to power. I'm pretty confident saying that. What the business?
That's a big one.
I probably said that, or a lot of players. It's just not Riot's style.
Right.
We really want players to feel like they're welcome back in the game at any time. And yeah, if life is rough right now and you're between jobs or you just can't, you can't pay for the subscription, I'd rather them not churn out rather than be able to keep playing. So that's why Riot has traditionally liked free-to-play with purely cosmetic purchases.
As you heard, Ghostcrawler didn't even approach it as big news. He just casually dropped this piece of info because that's a given at Riot Games. Now, I know what you might be thinking. In the past, some other developers from some other studios said they wouldn't do it. Until the moment they did it. So what makes this different for Ghostcrawler? Well, you see, this is simply how Riot operates. And if you need a proof, look no further than Riot's future game known as Project L. Project L is a league-based fighting game, and Riot is making sure the fighting game genre is yet another genre dominated by Riot Games. And in their latest dev update, they mentioned the exact same thing.
We want you to be able to play no matter where you live, what your skill level is, or how much money you have to spend on a game. To that, I'm happy to confirm that Project L will be free to play. If you played a Riot game before, this probably won't come as a surprise. Our team is made up of fighting game veterans and folks who are passionate about serving the FGC. And we operate with one approach. If we wouldn't like it, we won't do it. When it comes to monetization, we promise to be respectful of both your time and your wallet.
Respectful of both your time and wallet. Theoretically, this doesn't exclude buying power. Anyway, what this means is that Project L will most likely run exactly like League of Legends. You play the game for free to unlock fighters, but you can also buy them directly. Now, because they mentioned that they will be respectful of your time, hopefully the grind won't be that awful. I assume it will be something similar to Valorant, where you can unlock each new character every week. Not one character per month, as some games are doing it now. I mean, it's the same studio, they can just pass over the numbers and see what worked. And because they mentioned your wallet, I assume the skins won't be as pricey as Valorant. Speaking of which, let's talk about the overall monetization at Riot Games and what it means for Riot's MMO. Besides the indie titles, which are standalone games, every Riot game is a free-to-play game, which run on skins and time-saving monetizations. Now, when I say time-saving monetizations, you may jump to the conclusion that even time-saving is indirectly buying power. However, that really depends on what you are buying, and in Riot's case, I can confirm it is not pay to win. But before we get to that, let's quickly talk about the skins. In League, Riot struck a good balance, with most champion skins being between 5 and 10 bucks, with the vast majority of them having unique spell effects. And occasionally you can buy the massive 20 bucks skins, which change up the entire animations of the champions. All of that is fairly standard, nothing crazy here. But I have to say, as I mentioned in my last video, it seems like Riot is shifting their focus away from League. But while their focus is going to the other projects, they have to keep the monetization going. So these days, League is actually getting less gameplay content than we did a few years ago. But we are still getting the same amount of skins. This means that because the vast majority of the content is skins these days, it seems like skins are dominating everything else. And I find it funny that you can connect this to what Ghostcrawler said in the interview about monetization.
To look at League of Legends, for example, if we stopped making champions and just kept making skins, at some point players are like, well, this kind of sucks. You're only focused on the money-making side of the game. So you need to do both. You need to make sure the game balance is good. You need to update everything that you can in order for players to feel good about it.
Yes, it kind of feels like League is in this situation right now. In Teamfight Tactics, you can do the same thing. You can buy a skin for a little commander on the battlefield which you control, which is called Little Legend. These are always on the cheaper side, with some more expensive alternatives which also have unique execute animations when you defeat an enemy. However, every Little Legend also has a legendary variation, which you can only get from eggs. And eggs are essentially loot boxes. And the amazing thing is, the TFT team realized that these loot boxes are bad. And after their first year, they allowed you to buy any Little Legend directly. Of course, it is possible that government with their anti-gambling pressured them into this. But as far as we know, there were no lawsuits and they did it themselves. And since people trust them on this, if anything, it shows you their reputation. TFT also offers their Battle Pass, which to this day has perhaps the best value out of any pass in any game. However, Teamfight Tactics also has the arena skins. Because these are a massive chunk of landscape, of course they are a bit pricier than normal models. But the unfortunate part is that sometimes they also offer the legendary arenas, which go for up to $200. And I say up to because these arenas are a randomized drop. It is guaranteed to drop from egg number 60, which is around the $200 mark. But since you can get it earlier, you are essentially rolling for a discount. When Riot first announced this, I was shocked. I simply didn't expect it. But then, Mordog, the lead TFT developer, talked about it on his stream. And I realized I was wrong. Because TFT is so free to play, by which I mean you can't go more free to play without giving people money back. I mean, while in other games you grind for new characters or something like that. From the moment you log into TFT, everything is unlocked and you get the full experience. Even in League, that's not the case. Because of that, he mentioned that there are people who want to spend money on TFT, but they can't. Because in this game, you only have one little legend, so you technically only need one skin. Once you have the one skin you like, you don't need anything else. So, the team wanted to give the whales some food to support the game. And if you still feel like this was a greedy move, just listen to what Mordog has to say about it. For context, he is gonna mention Kaisa, and Kaisa is one of the $200 skins.
Sa Jollibee, sarap ng Pasko with crispy-licious, juicy-licious, best-tasting Jollibee Chicken Joy.
Obviously, TFT has to make money to succeed, right? And so we have these expensive cosmetics that people want. That being said, if you don't have money, it can feel left out, and I agree with you. So typically what you have to do is you have to look for the opportunities to find something kind of comparable, and there will be opportunities. You're not going to be able to get everything, but for example, during events, there's going to be ones that are more accessible. You might get lucky and get one during an egg. It's also the kind of thing where, like, let's say you really like Dragon Chibimancer Kaisa. Who knows, in 2 years it may come back in a thing that's a promotion and be a little easier to get, you know, as time goes on. You never know, and so you have to find your moment where you can get the thing you enjoy, rather than, you know, you have to have the new now. And unfortunately, like a lot of things in life, money counts, and it sucks when you don't have money. It really does, and I know that. I've been there. So that's my honest answer. Hopefully that was genuine enough.
I have never seen a dev so open about a massive, almost corporate level game. But yes, if anything, this shows you that Riot is trying to be fair about their prices. Lastly, when it comes to skins, we have to mention Valorant. Because Valorant is perhaps their most aggressive monetization. There, a normal recolor of a gun is about $10, with a full new model going for about 20. On top of that, melee weapons, so for example knives, are double the price. So, for a unique model on a knife, that would be $40. And on top of that, sometimes you get bundles of special weapons with unique finishers that go for up to $100. The logic behind this pricing is that for each gun you are only going to buy one skin. So once you buy a skin, you are unlikely to get another one. There is no gambling involved anywhere around Valorant. It is very much unlike Counter-Strike. So at least the monetization is not predatory per se. That said, it is still pretty high. Now that was all the notable skin monetization. It's fairly standard and sometimes the prices can go higher. However, remember, we are still talking about purely free-to-play games. So, let's talk about the potential pay-to-win. For Riot, the worst offender of this could be skipping grinds and buying characters. We can find this in League of Legends, Legends of Runeterra, and Valorant. In Legends of Runeterra you can buy cards, but no one ever does that because the game gives you so many free cards you really don't have to do anything. In fact, the game is notoriously so fair it is struggling to make money. In Valorant you can unlock a new character every week if you really grind. Realistically, it is a new character every 2 weeks. And in League you can buy champions directly, which could have been translated into power in the past. However, unlike in Overwatch, where picking heroes in the middle of the game can decide the game, and where the game is balanced around counterpicking, in League, that's not really the case anymore. A few years back, the game was balanced around hard counterpicking being a thing. But these days, Riot is trying to make sure that's not a thing for a very obvious reason. Unlike in Overwatch, in League, you lock in your champion for an entire game. So if you get hard counterpicked, you are not gonna have fun for the next 30 minutes. To combat this, Riot is slowly removing hard counterpicks from the game. And now you may have a slight advantage, but in general, any champion can win against any champion. Because of this, if you look at the players at the very top of the ladder, you may realize that all of them are playing one champion. So in League, if you buy a champion, you don't buy power. because owning other champion won't affect how your game is going, but you buy the option to try out other characters. With that said, I should mention that League currently has over 160 champions, and the game is giving you a lot of champions for free to compensate. And again, it is free to play. But there is one more thing I need to mention. While Riot is built on a strictly not pay-to-win monetization, there was a time when you could buy power. This dark age will scare even the most powerful veteran players. Of course, I'm talking about runes. Yeah, for the first 7 years in League's history up until 2017, besides buying champions with the in-game currency, you also had to buy runes. Runes were basically sockets. They gave you tiny bonuses like 0.1 attack damage or 1% crit. Of course, 1% crit was ridiculously overpowered, because all you needed was that one rune that gave you 1% crit chance, because by default everyone had 0. So in the early fights, what would happen if you had the tiny chance to win the lottery and crit them? Well, you would essentially decide the early fights. So of course, everyone always had at least one 1% crit rune. Anyway, the problem with these was that you needed a lot of runes to fill a rune page, with one full rune page being equivalent to one champion of the highest cost. But also, you couldn't customize the page before each game started. You had to set them up ahead of time, and then when you were picking champions, you would lock in one of the pages. By default, the game gave you 3 rune pages. So usually you would set up one for attack damage, one for ability power, and one for tanking. But what if you wanted to play a support who needs mana regeneration? Well, you had to buy an extra page, with each new page costing the value of yet another new champion, or $5. Basically, this would be equivalent to buying dual spec in WoW, except you could buy it with real money, and you needed it 5 times. So what did Riot do? Did they lower the price to make the system a bit more fair? No, they removed it entirely, because pay to win is not what Riot does. The reason why it was in the game in the first place is because it was an idea from 2009. Back then they didn't even know how they wanted to monetize their game, so they were trying out random things. Anyway, as you can see, even when Riot gets close to pay to win, they always steer away from it. They know how bad the impact can be, and their normal monetization formulas are working, so why would they damage it? Now, this entire time I pretty much talked about things that everyone else talked about as well. The 3 big factors steering the course of Riot's MMO. Number 1 being people attracted to the IP, number 2 being monetization that is nearly guaranteed to be fair, and number 3 being the fact that Ghostcrawler mentioned that the team working on Riot's MMO is stacked. Anyway, besides these 3 points, there is also a hidden 4th one. And it's a big reason why Riot's MMO is set up for success. And I'm not joking. It's something no one talked about because everyone is focused on the gameplay. But I strongly believe this one might affect how Riot's MMO rolls out. You see, League has been selling skins for 13 years now. That is 13 years of gathered data. Data which can be applied to the MMO. They know what skins sell and what don't. They know which aesthetics are appealing and which are not. But most importantly, they have skin lines in League that people love. And these could be ported over to the MMO. Now, if you don't play League and you don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain. Instead of just giving random champions random skins, Riot likes to connect skins together and make them part of the same alternative world. For example, there is the High Noon alternative universe. And champions who share the same High Noon skin can be cowboys, clockwork angels, demons from the Wild West, and people corrupted by demons. They all share the same thematic, and together they make up an aesthetic that people get attached to. So what happened over the years is that Riot made skin lines that people love. And every time a new skin from that skin line is released, it is an instant success. And of course what they can do is that they can take these successful skin lines and sell them as transmog in the MMO. If you consider the fact that they have 13 years of customer data about purchasing skins, they are set up for success if they decide to sell premium transmog, because they know what transmog is gonna be popular. What's even cooler is that even though they didn't give us the exact order, Riot confirmed 5 of their most popular skin lines. So now let me show you what might potentially appear in the in-game shop. Again, there is no particular order, but first there is the Project skin line. This one is an absolute classic. It is a futuristic skin line with energy, blades and guns, as well as some really deadly robots. Next there is KDA. The success of this skin line is driven by the popularity of their virtual K-pop band. The songs were a massive hit, and of course these skins were too. So this one seems like easy money, though I'm not sure how my Freljordian Barbarian is going to be wearing one of these. Next there is also Darkstar, a skin line around dark cosmic entities that are destroying worlds. The vast majority of these skins are stunning, and I have to point out that Darkstar Jhin is one of the best-selling skins in the history of League. Then we also have Spirit Blossom, a skin line released with an awesome visual novel inside League of Legends. This one is themed around Eastern legends. However, this skin line is also unique, because this skin line portrays mythical stories that Ionians believe in the canon universe. So in a way, these skins are canon. It's just that the champions are not themselves as champions, they are portraying the mythical stories. And lastly, there is the Star Guardian skin line. What originally started as a Sailor Moon knockoff eventually became its own universe with some very cool stories. The Star Guardian universe is perhaps the most popular one, with Star Guardian Jinx also being one of the best-selling skins ever. So this one would be an easy moneymaker too. But this time we have 2 male champions here, although it would still probably look weird on my Barbarian. But that is it for all the things I wanted to talk about. There was one more point, however, that point kinda crumbled. You see, I wanted to mention that while Riot Games is running their games in the West, in the East it was ran by Garena. Which meant that as the West had their normal monetization, Garena could use the Eastern monetization in the East, and the two basically had their own ecosystems. However, a few weeks ago, Riot just cut off Garena entirely, and they decided to operate League of Legends in the East themselves. What's funny is that Blizzard kinda tried to do the same thing, but Blizzard is not able to run their own games in the East. So while they also cut off their own Chinese publisher, because they can't publish it themselves, WoW is just gone. Anyway, what I wanted to mention originally is that because there is the West and East, because in the East players are more friendly towards pay to win, Riot can now operate 2 different ecosystems themselves. And so, even though I'm not really sure if this still holds up because they are no longer ran by Garena in the East, I still believe that Riot can run separate monetization in separate regions, because now they are controlling everything themselves. So who knows, maybe there will be pay to win, but that pay to win will only be in the East. I believe that's how Lost Ark is being handled, but I could be wrong, maybe the chances are the same everywhere. Anyway, Riot's MMO seems to be shaping up really well. That is probably because the people behind it seem to know what they are doing, their player base is ready to try out anything, and should we actually get a good game, their monetization is ready to shoot it up into the stratosphere. There was also that time they were trying to sell achievements, like not achievement unlocks. You had to pay to access achievements, which was then followed by a separate version of the achievements which was totally free, so we don't talk about that.
Ano na? Lumubog na. Ano, lumubog na, ano. Lulubog na, oh. Gabi na, oh. Paggabi na, oh. Ba naman yan? Pa rin. Ba naman yan, Blizzard? Ano, manonood na lang ulit ako? Ay. Oh, live na si ano, si Lazy Peon.
Twinings.
But it removes like all of their gear and everything. You only keep your stats because then there wouldn't really be any negatives of transferring from the old server to the new server. Maybe that's something we should start asking AGS for. I don't mind losing like all of my gold, all of my gear. The thing that I care about with New Worlds is the stats that I leveled up, like all of the grind, the expertise levels. Because then it wouldn't have any of the negatives of the bugged out economies from launch. I think that's what they should do. The emerging servers this incoming Friday. Okay. Well, yeah, still play.
Sige, tatry ko mag-iba ng UI while waiting. Talaga naman. Ay, wait. Ano ko? $20. $20 then $20. Value world 15 sa world, so 15 din natin to. Okay, so parang ganyan lang, parang okay na yung ganyan kalaki na. Uy, nawala yung ano. Wait, start natin. Oh, nasira na isang nasira na isang PC. Okay, tanggalin natin tong add-on na to. Hindi, dito pala. So dito yan. Disable muna natin yan. Okay, so gagawa tayo ng default 2. Default 2. Wala pang ano, parang reset. So talagang dito talaga to. Reset. Okay. Ito, 1, 2, 1. Reset. Three. Ay, wait, press ko dyan. Pet. Off. Reset. Reset. Bakit? Down. Ay, hindi. Up. Down. Yan. 100. 100. Okay. Yeah. Padding. So, maliit lang. $100. Padding. 4. 100. Ayun. Yun ba yun? Hindi yan yun. Ganun yun eh. Hindi yan yun. Ay. Option 3. 4 yun eh. Tapos 100. Position. Oh yeah, wait, 470. Five, 6, 7. Okay, got it. Target. Frame. Yun! Ayan na! Ayan na! Ayan na! Ito na! Yes! Yes! Oh, wait. Balik muna natin doon. Default. And okay. Wait, walang music yung ano ko. Oh.
We Drakthir would rather fly home than ride a wooden vessel as it drifts upon the waves.
Yeah.
But I pledge to accompany your expedition, so waves it is.
Okay.
Surely one of your airships would be faster than plodding along in this boat.
You really want to fly an airship into a sky full of dragons, Ensign? Besides, our tide sages are putting in work.
I suppose that is an understandable fear for a flightless creature.
Okay. Yes. Ngayon lang nag-start. Ano ba naman yan? Meron na lang akong 1 hour. What's this? Volunteer lookout. Ask crew for to teleport you to the crew nest. Ah. Oh, wow.
Looky there, Wild. A whole new land to explore.
Mountains to climb. Ruins to delve.
New species to discover. Award-winning photographs to take. Famous dragon autographs to acquire.
And flip far above normal resale value.
Focus. Obsidian warders, stay alert on approach.
Ito na. Start na tayo. Parang ang dark yata dito. Ayun na, lalapag na. Pag-start na rin.
Welcome to the Dragon Isles, explorers.
Yeah.
Come on, Wildfeather. Off to the next adventure.
Nice one. Anong quest natin? Ride the Dragon Scale and Dragon Isles. So may encampment na. Okay. Isang mapa tayo. Grabe naman nandito. Grabe, laki no? Ang daming flight fat talaga oh. Napakalaki eh. Grabe, tapos ito yung unang ano. Quest muna tayo, quest.
What adventure brings you here?
Welcome to Dragon Isles. Yeah, welcome.
Let's get moving.
Don't mistake the expedition scholar pursuits as timidness, kids. But your adventure hunting down knowledge first. Every corner has a that passion for adventure often leads us to the path of the forbidden and so more crew. But hey, the danger makes it more fun.
Wait to see what you discover.
Okay. Oh, what happened again? Okay, kung ayaw mo, duwag. Okay, let's see. Let's take this another quest.
Respect must be earned.
The dragons, which the proto dragons lurking in the ridge behind. It's whether those proto dragons which closer to cover every time. My turn. Those are not dragons. Rathian invited us here to meet proto dragons. A ruthless predator who cannot listen. We must ruthlessly turn call their number. To keep their ambition in check of their expedition will be over before it begins.
The obsidian warders stand proud.
Okay.
Have you seen my wrench anywhere?
Practice material. These explorers are throwing around their grappling hook by hand. Can you believe that? Imagine all the grappling hook could launch itself automatically when you need it. Mostly. The prototype here is unlike I've been seen before. Okay, the scales appear to be naturally flame resistant, stronger than steel. I don't lose flexibility in the process. Incredibly, the artisans are clamoring in their hands some of the work. Start with the weld. The smaller scale should be more available until we've mastered our technique with them.
Keep those irons in the fire.
We'd best keep moving.
Rathian said he would meet us at the embassy atop the hill.
It may be under attack. If it is, then I will be ready to defend my allies.
Okay. Man, all good, oh. So, dito lang tayo. Oh, ano sabi mo? Okay, sige lang. Sige lang. Fishing trainer. Okay, tingnan natin yung mga NPC dito.
Please follow protocol.
Train me. Yeah, train me.
Your mind is your sharpest
Ito.
weapon.
Okay.
Always be constructing.
Ito. Sige.
Hey!
Oh, baka sige. Wala pa naman tayong ano.
Alrighty then.
Para at least di mangyari yung kanina. Grabe, ang tagal eh. 9 o'clock? Grabe, 9 o'clock hanggang 12 oh. Sayang oras ko doon. Paano man yan? Sayang oras. Ang dami ko na sanang nagawa. So, okay. Uy, thank you. Uy, masakit. Masakit ba? Uy, pahinga ko. Pahinga ko. Oop, may quest. Uy. Lang? Ano to? The world must snatch this box supplies of unlucky Dragonflight expedition member. Cataloger JC number of embassy that. Okay. Oops. May ba't nawala yung... hindi pala naka ano. Wait. Okay. Lagyan natin yan. Natanggal ko. Saan tayo? Ito muna. Yung mga may ano muna. Hindi. Yes. Okay. Ito. May ano. Ano na-trap? Rescued. Okay. Sorry. Dragon 1. Okay. Blablabla. Ito na. Okay. Uy! Bilis naman. Saan yung isa? Ito. Oh, bina to, ano? Yeah. Oh, may ano dun? May diba? May scenario. Patay. Op. 226. Siyempre, tignan natin yung ano niyan. Ayun. Oh, di ba? Bentables. Oopsie. Sino na doon? Natutulog. Uy! Ay, kala ko. Parang malalaglag ako ng tuluyan eh. Ano yun? Ah, nasa ilalim. Oo nga, sa ilalim nga. Okay. Uy, uy! Lava. Sakit-sakit yan. Kaya ka na. Tapos na ba yan? Ito, tapos na ito. Ano na lang? 6 Primal Protodeck. Combat. Naka-combat pa kasi ako eh. Ayun, tututong malaki ito. Malalaki. Okay. Nag-error yung... Okay, we're done. Saan tayo? Asa move tayo doon? Ay, wait. Okay. Combat pa rin? Pampatanggal ng combat. Meron tayo niya, pampatanggal ng combat. Where are they? So, punta sila doon. May campit na naman.
Make your acquaintance,
Okay.
Indrax.
Well met. Go first. But I've
Dragons
got a story after.
are near here. Nimitas Ratian said they would. Okay.
Attention, calls, and we will answer.
Major unlock. Dragon Isle summary. Check. Click to show your Dragon Isle summary. He said that waiting for us. Ambassador and extras of the Lifebinder Queen of the Dragon. Well, at least eager to be Dragonite. Dragonite is here.
See you at the next adventure.
What's this? Oh. Okay. Oh. You have begun your adventure. Yes, I've already begun. Bug? Is it bug? No, Expedition Scout pox around Dragon Isle. Speak to Pathfinder Jeb in the Dragon Isle base camp for more details. Earning reputation will fill this bar. Once full, you will gain renown level and unlock reward. Nice one. Okay, okay. So, what's with you?
Ready to serve.
Where's Ration quest? Why aren't the dragons here to meet us?
Yes.
Oh.
I had expected Major Domo Solistra and Rathian to be here by now.
Bye pala yun.
But I am honored to be the one to welcome you to the Dragon Isles. On my first real assignment, no less. What good fortune.
Buisit. Hindi bagay, babae yung boses eh. Ba't tayo mag-interact? Hey!
Always here to help. Oh, do you need my help? Please
Okay.
enjoy your
I do
time
not know,
here.
as I said, it's my first assignment. Okay.
It was nice to meet you.
This is truly the honor to be first member of the Dragonflight to welcome me. Sure. I am Cadet. Please give me this first assignment. That I get rid of assignment is welcome again. Should we shake hands? I believe read some what the plans like.
Please enjoy your
I
time
wish
here.
we knew more about welcome. You know the Dragon was better than the only century. Okay, and you could try talking with the passenger in the visitor center. He might be able to. Saktan na tayo ako. Let be. Okay. Okay. Clean out trouble.
Always. So you two were adversaries before leading this expedition together?
Yeah.
Yes. The Horde and Alliance have a long history of rivalry. But Toddy and I pursue knowledge, not violence.
And adventure! Knowledge is only half the fun. Welcome to the Dragon Isles.
Have you seen Night Elves before, bro? So this Tempest with Mortal. I want to talk about this. According to the history teacher, yes. That's all I think. Okay. Sige. Later na yan.
It was nice to meet you.
So, quest muna tayo. Main quest. No, just doors with private route. Okay.
What is your report?
Okay. Not-talking expedition counts in time. Let's see what we did all. Remember
Stay
that.
true to your word. We are the shield of the
You do the
Drakthir.
challenge to protect the expedition from his returning appearance very really. That shakes his head.
The
Explorers.
Drakthir will find a place in this world.
How can I help
You got the skills yet. Brilliant. Our artisans have no problem putting to scooters.
you? Flame burn bright.
Okay.
Fire away.
Gadget his hands. Big explorers are throwing around their grappling hooks by hand. Can you believe that? Imagine all the grappling hook would launch itself automatically when you need
Keep
it.
those irons in the fire.
So,
Lord
keeper
Admiral's
renowned.
favourite
Ah,
friend.
okay, ito si Jake. Hi, Jake.
Smooth sailing.
They're always looking for supplies. So,
Look always to the sea.
up here just reported some. Okay. Like this.
Safe passage to you.
Okay.
Good day to you.
You should start the expedition now.
Keep the wind in your sails.
Okay. Marks your map at the location. Treasure walking shore. Dig. So.
Smooth sailing.
Ano yun? Archaeology. Yeah. Ito pa pala.
We have a mission to accomplish.
Light BBG. It's expedition under protection. Both Horde and Alliance. Our orders are clear to give a member of the expedition regardless their legends. The words representative war. Stands. Okay, expedition will go after resistance. Show that the Alliance or ourselves
We'll meet
commitment. Do you think you can trust that? No, I fought alongside my honorable horde in the Scourge invasion where the Grimax included. Okay. May gagawin ako dito eh. Ang gagawin ko dito? Buy archaeology artifact notes.
can I do for you?
Buy archaeology. Ito. So, ito. Buy this.
Look always to the sea.
And then what? Use it. Okay. Create a map. So, what will happen? Is that it? Okay.
Ahoy!
Finding a
Safe
treasure hand.
passage to you.
I will travel with the Toddy. Okay. Catalog.
Keep the wind in your
And
sails.
that artifact should be marked on your map now. Happy treasure hunting!
What can I do for you? Look
Okay.
always to the sea.
Okay, this one. Okay, mga ganyan-ganyan. Okay. Is it good to burden skill? Sure, that's not every problem can be solved. Your mother for the horde, I mean. Okay.
Loktar.
Horde escort. Nox, Captain Garig Poops owner.
Stay strong.
Greatest artisans so okay, but the journey here the dragon has let us use this strength to protect them.
Never
Okay.
stop training.
Okay, on track muna natin yan. Abandon na to. Ay, hindi. Ito pala ang... Hindi, truck lang. Eh, mali yung...
The Horde leaves no one behind.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Ang daming mini...
What is your pleasure?
Dragonized Taylor. Okay, Taylor.
Pleasure doing business.
Uy,
Take a
Taylor.
look. I sell all manner of wares.
It's my,
You will not find a
it's
better
my
buy.
profession.
Got anything for me?
Talaga na
quick.
enchanting.
Be clever. Remember, everything has its use.
Enchanting. Oh yeah, enchanting din pala ako.
Surviving means being resourceful.
Oo nga
Our
pala.
enemies will fall.
Okay, surgery, safety.
Salama Ashalanore.
Have enchanted helicopter to nearby centers. Okay.
We will persevere.
Okay.
Death to all who oppose us.
Ano to?
Speak
Jewelry. Okay, jewelry. So, oops. May something doon. Eto pa. Ano yun? May sabi na yun, parang may... Yes. Power allies danger. Uy. So, may binubuong kung ano doon.
Incredible. The elements here surge with power.
Oh, okay. What is this? Okay, mga dragon. Proto drakes. May sakay?
Dragon riders? I gotta race them!
Ayun na.
Can't see I fancy a fight with that one.
Okay.
Anu Belore de la Na.
I thought it's certain you should plummet.
We will have justice.
No, I'm happy to keep my feet planted firmly right here on the ground. Yeah, sure. Okay, may saan yung flat fight? Ito pala. Flight path. Okay.
Time is money, friend.
Yeah. Isa pala ang aking flight path.
Glad I could help.
Hi.
Mining. Okay. Napakilala lang.
Off with you. Safe travels.
Belayadoros.
Ano naman to? Ambassador. Quality
Always
insurance.
glad to help. Dionisa Ka.
Artisan. And high quality service. Artisan. Parang kinulang to. Cooking, fishing, archaeology. 4 to ah. Hindi ko naman ano ah. 3 lang ba talaga yan? Oh. Ewan.
Welcome, honored guest. What service
Innkeeper.
may I offer?
Family arrival with Dragonflight.
Take this guide. It shows the embassy's many amenities. If they weren't all in disrepair, that is.
Yeah, okay. Diba? Begin filling out the form. Okay. Yung ganun. Kitsipat called already on hunters. Call me extra select one. The Kitsipat select one. Kitsipat the real queen dragon. Ratty and B. Kitsipats na. Pwede na yan. I don't believe in time. Last call, I hope. That setting up precise when I meant to. It's a good, sorry I'm late, I'm always late. Right today, date. Okay, for Azeroth,
What a joy it is to see new signatures in the visitor's log after all these years.
Yes. Ito may innkeeper pa pala siya.
Goods in the Isles.
Keeper.
I await your return.
Cooking training. Okay, cooking training. Kailangan natin yan. Dragon Isles. Naka-legion pa rin. Tagal na yun eh. Okay. Yes. Bakit may ano dun? May quest tayo dun. What? Mas pagdating dito, so, where's Arrogance? Light up.
May this brazier once more guide every peaceful denizen of Azeroth to these shores.
Oh. Okay. May parating na word. Yeah, okay. Not a welcome message read. Okay.
Queen Alexstrasza is far more impressive than any statue you'll find in the Isles.
Yeah, welcome friend of the Dragonflight. Your journey in the Dragon Isles. Bring your tranquility evidence. Okay. So, Alexstrasza ba daw? So, I need to kill something. Like this one. Not yet. Eto. Pero parang hindi. Parang gulo ng mapa ko ah. Okay, tama. Dito ako. Dito natin siya makikita. So, eto. Okay. Rito. Saan pa yung isa? Pwedeng dito yung daan. Or hindi. Sa loob. Okay. Okay, sa loob. Nag-ano eh. Ba't di makita yung ano? So ito yun. Okay, oh, primal earthen core. So, kailangan ko rin yan. Oh, ano to? Excavating. Magic excavating. Oy. Ano lang? Okay, may stun. Lux. Ano yun? Tatlo lang. Wala pa. Ay, what? What? Okay, ano yun? May nakuha akong something. Okay. Oh, may maliit. May maliliit pala na ito eh. Naging fire. Okay. Ah, saka pwede rin makuha sa kanila. Okay, hindi up. Hindi yan. So, medyo malaki-laki dapat dito. Ayan. Ito. Pull lang natin yan. Pati ito. Uy, nahilo. Akala ko nulong pa eh. What's... Ah, excavated. Ayos. Oops. Uy. Ayun na. Nano na ako. Uy, dami oh. Excavate. Last one. Okay. Tapos
Ashtaras Denil.
kanina mo pa binabanatan yan eh. Tulungan na kita. Okay, ano to? Mining.
Glad to meet you. Watch your back.
I gotta build Grand helmet first. No, hammer.
See
Big
you
hammer.
soon.
Okay. Incredible, this is the best day.
Watch your back.
I'm gonna make so many hammers. Yeah.
Welcome, friend.
Quality
Clear
assurance.
skies
Thank
and
you.
Safe journeys. Please be careful, friend.
We'll deliver these tools once the dragons, which will be quite pleased to my crafting order. Okay. Mining.
How can I help?
Okay, wala masyado. Dito muna tayo.
Stay focused on our mission. Stay strong.
Captain. All side of the story. Okay. Tell Captain Greek that we're sharing the table. Of course, so we expand battlefield share meal. I thought that way. Okay.
Oh, do you need
Excuse
my
me,
help?
yes. Nemesis is looking better already. It's working every night of every. I can't wait for more.
I'm always here to help.
Please give me nerves. Incredible. Somewhere you can like do that.
Please enjoy your time here.
Puzzle. Majordomo. Majordomo. Nosdorm, I could see them. I just seen a flare in the right man arrival. Then they would come running, which did he have there? Seen a flare
It
before.
was nice to meet you.
She is flare.
Welcome to the Dragon Isles. We were trained to only use these signal flares if the situation is dire. But I suppose this is a type of emergency. I'm all there. Major Domo Silistra will arrive soon.
Does the Major Domo personally respond to every call for help?
Oh, yes. In times of trouble, there is no one Queen Alexstrasza trusts more.
Here they come!
Ayun.
Incredible.
What?
Ah, look who we have here.
We saw the flare and assumed the worst. What is wrong, Cadet Sandrax?
Major Domo, the new arrivals were wondering where you were, and I thought...
I see. There was a reason for our absence. An ancient rival, the Jharedin, have stirred to violence once again.
Jharedin.
Dragonheart Outpost has already fallen.
What? Really?
What is your need?
I cannot see you a dragon. I'm confused. Are you dragon or Vulpera? Well, that's curious question. Can I present anything that I have not found the truth? Look, I have found it for like in a 1 minute sentence. Can you tell for that? You another more than another. Well, I am trying to go. See how the chosen visage I will Vulpera, and I hope that in time we will see the rest. Secret to meet it, but I don't like it. Okay.
The Queen's blessings upon you.
Do you trust?
Okay, well, what they say, do fancy flight alongside with newfound dragon coin is sure. Quicker may earn their trust.
The Black Dragonflight will be redeemed.
Okay.
I can help you thrive here, mortal.
Okay. I will transfer the next restaurant possible.
Your rival is not
I
always
wish
your
with
enemy.
time more pleasant interaction with I am so strong at the life binder queen. Queen Extras asked me to convey her kindness regard to escort you her. Well, I suppose, but I'm afraid I must have assisted before. Ancient rival. Jharedin have awoken from their slumber under the earth. I have already assaulted.
Lifebinder be with you.
Attack and sudden interrupts. Show as soon as possible.
I will await you.
Excuse, okay.
Cadet Sendrax, escort the adventurer to Commander Lethanak outside Dragonheart Outpost. Assist with the evacuation of the whelplings and wounded.
Yes, Major Domo.
Major Domo.
Rathian and I will take to the skies and keep the Jarradin contained inside Scalecracker Keep.
Do hurry along, champion. After all, we wouldn't want the battle to be over before you even arrive.
Engage only when the whelplings and wounded are secure. The rest of the visitors must remain here until it is safe to leave the embassy.
Oh, I'm gonna miss all the fun.
There's plenty to study here before we move on, Toddy.
We each have a duty before us. By wing or by talon, see it done.
Okay, sure.
Ready to serve.
Awoken. Setting the wheel again. Should we go into
Please enjoy your time here. It was nice to meet you.
What is this? Waking Hope. Okay, with these shores. Please keep me in there in the first assignment. So it is welcome. Vendex needed.
I'm always here to help.
Paano napunta yun doon? Diba, sa slumber deep in the earth. They will be helping all the owls in danger.
Please enjoy your time here.
We'll launch expeditions to every corner of these isles as soon as it's safe to do so.
Oh, where's the fun in being safe?
Okay,
Do you need my help? We'll move swiftly. Dragonheart Outpost isn't far. According to legend, the Jarradin are the dragon's most formidable rivals. They were ruthless and powerful, killing countless dragons in ancient times.
Yeah. Okay.
When the dragons left, and the land went dormant, so too did the Jarradin slumber. But now, the land itself reawakens with glorious life. May we never tire of its beauty.
Okay.
We Dragonids have stayed vigilant as we safeguarded the Oath Stones, symbols of the Dragonflight's power. The return of the Jarradin will test us to the limit. May we prove worthy of the challenge. Commander Lethanak, Cadet Sendrax and ally reporting on the Major Domo's orders.
Laki nga. Grabe.
At ease. Protect your
Yeah,
allies.
gonna get safety.
Report back.
Invader. Deliver.
For the Lifebinder.
Level up.
Dismissed. Report back. I am trusting you with the lives of my brethren.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Say some more. Ito. Ano to? Parang ano. Okay. Ano yun? Nasa taas? Last one. Okay, kunin muna natin yan. Apat pa, apat. Babagal kumilos eh. Let's go. Uy.
The Shrine Guard protect.
Fader, okay, wonderful.
Protect your allies. For the Lifebinder.
The wagon is ready to go.
Wait. I need you for another vital task, Cadet.
I will see it done, even if it costs me my life.
Easy, young one. We will need our most veteran warriors to combat the rise of our ancient enemies. Head to the Lifebinder Conservatory and rally the Draconid to the life pools.
Right away, Commander Lethanek.
Okay.
Aspect's grace shine down on you. Until we meet again.
Okay, wait lang. Ito muna tayo. May lumilipad na kung ano ba eh. Not okay, traitor. We're gonna through there.
The waters flow again. For dragonkind. Aspects watch over you. Honor all dragons.
Stand firm in your duty.
Okay, the side quest lang naman to. Hindi pa ako nagle-level up na. Ay. Babot pa rin. So wala talagang ano. Wala talagang kawala. Oops. Ganda loko-loko siya. Ang dami naman eh. Hindi ko nakuha. Ay, ako na yung nakuha. Ay, hindi pwede. Ano pala yun? Sama pala yun. Pinaglalaroan yung mga creatures. Okay, tapos na yan. Ano na lang ang painting water. Yun. Oh, ito. Okay, we're done. We're done with the side quest.
Gave up hope.
Your skin
Aspects of grace shine down on you.
Okay. Okay, isa pa. Ano pa isa?
The Isles welcome you. May the flights protect us.
Ano pa na ito?
Waters nourish you.
Yeah. Ay. Saan pa rin ba? Ganyan lang. Ito, ano ba ito? Collected? Ayaw nga, no? Pero lang. So, ito pa yun. Okay. Diba? Itong maganda sa DH eh. Ano yun? Tatalon ako. Yeah, see? Nakita ko yun. Who are you, man? Tayo pa natin yan. Uy, sakto naman. Ayan, combat tuloy. Kaya okay na yan. Kaya yan. Okay, done. Ikaw din, kukunin ko din yan. Use that. Oops. Oh, ano, control. Oh. Kaya pala. Muli. Look, meron dun. Ayun, dadali. Ah, ito yata yung dadali natin dun. Hindi. Wait. Di pa pala tayo tapos. Mamaya na yan. Mamaya na tayo bumalik. Uy. Oh, kulang pa. Ano pa ang kulang? Okay. Ay, dami. Dami dito. Okay.